David only graduated high school, so he's not really useful at work. That's why he takes care of all the miscellaneous tasks like gathering documents and making copies. Honestly, he's pretty much just dead weight. Huh, that's funny. The younger guy, Ryan, a graduate of Tokyo University, kept looking down on me throughout the mixer. The way the women looked at me was completely different from how they looked at Ryan. Their gaze was cold and indifferent. They chuckled, mocking me, and I clenched my fists tightly. I knew this would happen, I thought with a sigh. This is exactly why I didn't want to come to this mixer. As the first round came to an end, I tried to slip away quietly. But just as I was about to leave, the most beautiful woman in the group grabbed my sleeve and looked up at me with wide eyes. Want to sneak out, just the two of us? Ha! From this moment on, my fate and hers would take an unexpected turn. My name is David Thompson. I work in the planning department of a major kitchen appliance manufacturing company called Lamb. My main job is to research what kind of kitchen tools customers want and propose new products based on that. But in reality, I hardly ever do that kind of work. I come in early to clean the office, organize documents, serve tea to my co-workers, make copies, and gather materials when requested. That's what I do every day, handling all the small, menial tasks. David, can you make copies of this for me? Ryan, my junior colleague, asked me that with a casual tone. I gave a quick sure, and took the documents from him. He flashed a grin. Man, you're a lifesaver. Thanks to you handling all the grunt work, I can focus on the important stuff. After all, I'm a top-tier elite from Tokyo University, and the company has high expectations for me. I'm swamped with work. So I just can't afford to waste time on minor tasks like this. Is that so? Well, feel free to rely on me anytime. Of course. I mean, a high school graduate like you doesn't have many other ways to contribute to the company, right? Whether he meant it as an insult or was just oblivious, Ryan said it with a big smile. He was the type who cared deeply about academic backgrounds, whether someone was a high school graduate or a university graduate, and if so, which university they attended. Well, most people are like that. They change their attitude based on someone's credentials. If they find out your parents are company executives or that you graduated from a famous overseas university, their whole demeanor shifts as they try to cozy up to you. On the other hand, if they know you're just a high school graduate like me, they have no hesitation in treating you like a nobody. Thinking about all that, I silently copied the documents Ryan requested and handed them over. Then, I took a glance around the office. People were starting to lose focus. It looked like a good time to make a round of coffee. Making that judgment, I headed to the break room, prepared enough coffee for everyone, and started handing them out. Here you go, Stephen. Ah, thanks as always. When I placed the last cup on Stephen, my boss's desk, he thanked me. Then, with a serious expression, he stared at me. David, how old are you now? I'm 28. You're single, right? No girlfriend? Anyone you're interested in? Whoa, where's this coming from? Nah, no one. I laughed it off, but Stephen kept looking at me with his arms crossed. You're almost 30, and you don't even have a crush on anyone? Have you thought about your future? Are we talking about marriage now? Ha, Stephen, being single at 30 is totally normal these days. And besides, there's no point in me having a girlfriend. There's no such thing as no point. All right, I've decided. I'm organizing a mixer. You're going. A mixer? I blurted it out, making some co-workers glance our way. The one who reacted the most was Ryan. He immediately stood up and rushed over. Stephen, you're organizing a mixer? Who are the women? Oh, yeah. I was thinking of inviting some employees from our subsidiary, Lewis Company. Lewis Company? The women there are really pretty. This is gonna be fun. Ryan? I didn't say I was inviting you. But Ryan wasn't listening at all. Stephen let out a deep sigh. Then, he turned back to me. That's how it is. I'll let you know the time and place later. Wait, so it's decided? I really don't do well with these things. If you don't come, the mixer is cancelled. That caught Ryan's attention, and he immediately clung to me. David! Please come. I'm begging you. I sighed at how conveniently he changed his attitude, but with him pleading like this, I couldn't bring myself to refuse. All I could do was nod. The day of the mixer. Stephen, Ryan, and I arrived at a bar near Lewis Company. Apparently, this was a place Stephen often used for business meetings with their employees. The interior was stylish, definitely a place that women would enjoy. Shortly after we arrived, 3 women walked in. Sorry, did we keep you waiting? No, not at all. We just got here. After exchanging a few words with the woman leading the group, they took their seats across from us. Next to me, Ryan let out a quiet whoa in admiration. I couldn't blame him. All 3 of them were stunning. Their outfits, makeup, and hairstyles weren't overly flashy, but refined and elegant, leaving a great first impression. Among them, the one who caught my attention the most was the woman sitting directly in front of me. She had a youthful, almost innocent charm, with slightly upturned eyes that inexplicably drew me in. Our eyes met for a brief moment, and I quickly looked down. My heart was pounding louder than I'd ever experienced. I had never felt this way about someone at first sight before. Judging someone based on their looks alone, wasn't that the same as changing your attitude based on status? I scolded myself for being no different. When we introduced ourselves, I learned that the woman in front of me was named Alice. All 3 of them worked in the planning department at Lewis Company. Actually, our manager, Mia, has her sights set on Stephen. That's why she was so excited when she got the invitation for this mixer. Alice said this, glancing at Stephen along with Serena, who was sitting beside her. Sure enough, Mia was eagerly engaging Stephen in conversation. Apparently, they were already familiar with each other, and they were hitting it off. So let's just leave those 2 alone and have fun ourselves. I'd rather not get caught in the crossfire. Alice said playfully, her mischievous tone making her even more charming. Unfortunately, Ryan seemed to have the same thought. As soon as the conversation started, he immediately began talking about his favorite topic, which was himself. Wow, Ryan, you went to Tokyo University? That's amazing. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, the company does have high expectations for me, though. That means a lot of responsibilities and stress. Every day is tough. You must be really strong, Ryan. Well, I do have David to thank for that. Since he only graduated high school and isn't all that useful in the planning department. He handles all the menial tasks for me, gathering documents, making copies, and all that. Oh, I see. The way the women looked at me was completely different from how they looked at Ryan. Their gaze was cold and indifferent. I had expected it, but I still let out a sigh in my mind. But seeing that look on Alice's face, that stung a little. As we were talking, Mia suddenly stood up. Excuse me, I need to use the restroom. Almost as if they had planned it beforehand, Alice and the others got up and followed her. Once the women were gone, the table fell into an awkward silence. Ryan nudged me with his elbow. Alice is really cute, isn't she? Yeah, I guess so. I'm going for Alice. So, David, don't get in my way, alright? Ryan seemed completely serious as he glared at me. I let out a dry laugh. I already told you, I have no interest in having a girlfriend. That's true. Besides, a high school graduate like you doesn't stand a chance with Alice, or with anyone, really. His last remark drained me of all my energy. Wanting to clear my head, I got up and headed to the restroom. As I walked past the women's restroom, I heard lively voices from inside. It was Alice and the others. "Mia, how's your approach going?" "I think it's going well." I finally managed to exchange personal contact info with him. "Wow. Nice. Just one more push, and you're in." Hearing them excitedly talk about romance, I couldn't help but find it amusing. "So, what about you two? David?" "No way." Alice's voice cut through the conversation without hesitation. "He barely talks, and whenever our eyes meet, he looks away immediately. It's so obvious he's not interested in people. Wasn't he just invited to even out the numbers? And at work, he only does menial tasks. He's basically just a deadweight employee. If we're going for someone, it has to be Ryan, right, Serena?" "Yeah, and he said he only graduated high school." I felt like the ground beneath me was shaking. But I clenched my fists and endured it. Why was I letting this get to me so much? She just happened to have a face that matched my type, nothing more. I didn't need a girlfriend. Before they could finish their conversation, I returned to my seat. When the women came back, Ryan suggested switching seats. "Sounds good. How about Ryan and Mia switch places?" With Alice's suggestion, Mia took the seat between me and Steven, while Ryan slid in between Alice and Serena. Wasting no time, Ryan eagerly started talking to Alice. He asked about her favorite foods, what she did on weekends, and how she felt about her job. Alice answered with a bright smile, occasionally bringing Serena into the conversation. Meanwhile, Steven was deeply engaged in conversation with Mia. Feeling out of place, I silently sipped my drink. By the time we left the bar, it was already late at night. The gathering was supposed to end 30 minutes earlier, but Steven and Ryan had gotten carried away chatting with the women. "Let's go for a second round," Ryan suddenly suggested. The women quickly chimed in. "Sounds good. Sorry, but I think I'll call it a night." I said that and turned to leave. Just then, I felt a small tug on my sleeve. When I turned around, it was Alice. "I'd like to talk with you more, David." She looked up at me, and my heart skipped a beat. Calm down, I told myself. Just moments ago, Alice had completely dismissed me in the restroom, yet now she was saying she wanted to talk to me more. What was that supposed to mean? Was she plotting something? Could she have made some kind of deal with Ryan? "David." As I was lost in speculation, a voice called out to me from the road. I froze at the all too familiar voice and turned toward it in shock. "Lucas. What are you doing here?" "Of course, I came to pick you up." Lucas, dressed impeccably in a suit without a single wrinkle, stood beside a sleek black car that anyone could tell was expensive at a glance. He bowed deeply to me. "I told you not to come here." "But you were out so late," I grew concerned. David? Who is this?" Ryan's voice was uncertain as he looked between us. Before I could answer, Lucas stepped forward and bowed politely toward him. "I am Lucas, David's chauffeur." "Chauffeur? Wait, what is this?" "David, who exactly are you?" "Oh, you didn't know?" "David is the son of Mr. Thompson, the president of Lamb." At those words, Ryan and the others exclaimed, "What?" Serena, her cheeks suddenly flushed, rushed toward me. In her haste, she shoved Alice aside, not even bothering to acknowledge it. I've actually thought you were wonderful from the very start." She pressed forward eagerly, making my head ache. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Alice stumble slightly but managed to steady herself. She glared at me and Serena. Ryan stepped toward her. "Are you okay, Alice? Looks like those two are hitting it off, so why don't you forget about them and come to the second round with me?" He reached out and gently touched her shoulder, but she smacked his hand away with surprising force. Ryan's eyes widened in shock. "Don't touch me. I wanted to get to know David." But you kept interrupting with your constant chatter, and I barely got a chance to talk to him. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I have no interest in someone who keeps putting David down." Alice was furious, and Ryan flinched at her outburst. Serena, who had been pressing close to me just moments ago, stared at her in stunned silence. Taking advantage of the moment, I slipped away. "David!" Lucas called after me, sounding flustered, but I ignored him. I ran aimlessly through the dark streets. Before I knew it, I had no idea where I was. Still, I figured I had my phone, so I could get home whenever I wanted. Feeling drained, I wandered into a nearby park and sat down on a bench. Letting out a deep sigh, I looked up at the night sky. The clouds covered most of it, hiding the stars, but the moon shone brightly through the gaps. Then, I heard the sound of someone running toward me. It was Alice. She was breathing hard, sweat glistening on her forehead. "There you are, David." A gentle scent wafted from her. And for some reason, I felt an inexplicable ache in my chest, like I was about to cry. "David? Are you feeling okay?" She leaned in to peer at my face, and I quickly looked away. "Why did you follow me? Are you that desperate to get close to the company president's son?" I spoke the words without looking at her. Alice said nothing. Instead, she quietly sat down beside me. Even though she still carried that pleasant scent, I must have grown used to it, because I no longer felt that deep sadness. "You saw Serena's reaction, didn't you? The moment she found out I was the president's son, she completely changed. I've seen people like her more times than I can count. That's why I keep it a secret. I'm sick of people who only see my status and try to get close because of it." Alice still said nothing. Finding it strange, I looked up and our eyes locked. For some reason, I couldn't look away. Her expression was hard to describe, a mix of anger and sadness. It was as if she could see straight into the depths of my heart, and a shiver ran down my spine. "You might not believe me when I say this, but I really did want to get to know you from the very beginning, David." "Lies. Wasn't I a lost cause? A silent, disinterested deadweight employee who avoids eye contact? Oh, so you heard that?" Alice scratched her cheek, looking a little embarrassed. "I only said that to throw Serena off. It's better to have fewer rivals, right? But I hurt you, didn't I? I'm sorry." She pressed her hands together in an apologetic gesture and peeked up at me. The moment I found that look adorable, I knew I had lost. I let out a deep sigh. Something about this park felt familiar. The realization triggered an old memory, and my chest ached. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I let myself open up to her. There's actually another reason I keep my identity a secret. Ever since I was a kid, my parents controlled every relationship I had. They'd say things like, "That child's family background isn't good enough," or "They only have one parent," and just like that, they'd tear me away from my friends. It hurt every time. But the final straw was when they separated me from her. "Her?" Alice tilted her head. "A girl I met by chance at a park on my way home when I was a kid. I never even asked her name, but I was so sure we'd get married one day. That's how much I liked her. But my parents found out and forbade me from ever going back to that park. They even had someone watch me to make sure I didn't. I tried sneaking out a few times, but she was never there. Later, I found out my parents had her family move to a distant town. I guess they were probably working for one of my father's companies or subsidiaries. That's when I gave up. I accepted that I'd befriend only those my parents approved of and marry whoever they chose. It was easier that way. Without my status, no one tried to get close to me. I didn't have to pretend to make friends. At some point, I had clenched my fists tightly. I only realized it when Alice gently wrapped her hands around mine. "Don't say things like that. Your life belongs to you, David. If there's something you want, it's okay to reach for it. Just like I'm holding onto you now. She smiled, her fingers still wrapped around mine. Without realizing it, tears fell from my eyes. Hey, how about you start with me? Just little by little, get to know me. And when you're ready, decide for yourself if you want to be with me. Not because of anything else, but because it's what you want. I couldn't speak, my chest too tight with emotion. So instead, I nodded several times in response. That night, we exchanged contact information. Just seeing the name Alice on my screen made me smile. It had been a long time since I'd felt this way. The next workday. As always, I arrived early and finished cleaning when Ryan walked in. Ryan, listen. Can you keep the fact that I'm the president's son a secret from everyone? It'll be a hassle if it gets out. Of course. I never planned to say anything. I don't care if you're the president's son or whatever. The fact remains that you're just a high school graduate who's bad at his job. Ryan's words were sharper than usual. But as long as he kept my secret, I had no complaints. Since exchanging numbers, Alice and I started going out regularly. I guess you could call it dating. I had never thought I'd be in this situation, so every time we planned to meet, I agonized over what to wear to look good next to her and where to take her to make her happy. But by the time we actually met, all those worries faded away. No matter how I dressed or where we went, she always looked like she was having the time of her life. And before I knew it, I had completely fallen for her. On our 10th date, I decided I would confess my feelings to Alice. So I planned everything more carefully than ever. I chose the outfit she had complimented before, the location she had loved the most, and the meal she had enjoyed the most. I was sure of her feelings. From everything she had said and done so far, it was obvious. Alice liked me too. So I had no doubt that she would accept my confession. I chose a botanical garden as our date location. It wasn't just a garden. It had animals as well, offering the best of both worlds. After seeing how much she enjoyed the flower field on our 3rd date and the zoo on our 7th, I was sure she would love this place. Wow! Look, David! A capybara. I've never seen a real one before. As expected, Alice was thrilled. Watching her excitement made me smile without even realizing it. We dipped our feet into a pool filled with Dr. Fish, laughing as she said, "This tickles," and spent time closely observing tropical plants that couldn't be found in our country, enjoying every moment together. For lunch, we bought sandwiches from a shop inside the botanical garden and ate at an outdoor space where food was allowed. This feels like a picnic. I love this kind of thing, she said happily, clearly enjoying the moment. After spending the entire day at the garden, we went out for dinner. Of course, I chose a restaurant with a beautiful night view that I knew she would love. Today was amazing. I've enjoyed all our dates, but this one might be my favorite. I'm glad to hear that. As we walked home under the full moon, Alice's light-hearted steps made me breathe a quiet sigh of relief. Then, I steeled myself. Alice, there's something I want to tell you. She stopped walking and turned toward me, tilting her head slightly. The gesture was so adorable that my heartbeat quickened. Alice, I love you. Will you go out with me? Her eyes widened in surprise. But in the next moment, they narrowed, and the corners of her lips curved upward. It was a smirk. I hate you. It felt like a bucket of ice water had been poured down my back. Hate? No, that can't be. You said you wanted to get close to me. That was just an act. You really don't understand people at all, do you? And now you claim to love me? How ridiculous. My heart pounded wildly, and cold sweat ran down my spine. She took a step closer, her smirk never fading. You look like you don't understand why this is happening. Fine, I'll explain. This is revenge, David. Revenge? You don't remember, do you? We went to the same high school. I had feelings for you and confessed. But you rejected me in front of everyone, saying, "Did you really think an ordinary girl like you could be with me?" I searched my memory, but nothing came to mind. Back in high school, everyone knew I was the president's son, so confessions were a weekly occurrence. I never remembered who they were from. But I did remember rejecting people cruelly, just to make sure they never approached me again. Even if you didn't like me, you didn't have to be so harsh. So I swore revenge. I wanted you to feel the same humiliation I did. That's why I perfected my looks, my makeup, my fashion, my mannerisms. I pushed myself to excel in both academics and sports because I knew I had to stand out to even catch your attention. The only thing beyond my control was your feelings. But in the end, it worked, and it feels incredible. As Alice smiled in blissful satisfaction, a searing pain spread through my chest. But listening to her story, I realized I had no right to blame her. The way I acted in high school was inexcusable. I'm sorry. It's too late for that. Do you really think an apology will erase this scar? I guess not. And now, I finally understand. I thought I had given up on forming relationships, but I was wrong. The fact that this hurt so much means I truly loved you, Alice. Alice furrowed her brows, glaring at me. The pain in my chest throbbed. It was the same pain I felt when I had decided to stop caring about others. Looking at her slightly upturned eyes and youthful features, the pain only deepened. Thank you, Alice. You reminded me that I'm still capable of feeling something human. I'm really glad I fell for you. Sarcasm won't get you anywhere with me. She turned on her heel and disappeared into the darkness of the night. After Alice had completely disappeared from sight, I cried silently. For the first time, I realized how unbearably hot tears could be. No matter how much I cried, the pain in my heart remained. But even after everything, I couldn't bring myself to hate her. Only the round moon watched over me in silence. A month after Alice rejected me, a joint project was launched between our company and hers to develop a new product. When I learned that Alice was participating in the project, I immediately withdrew from it. In contrast, Ryan was eager to take part. Considering how Alice had clearly rejected him during the mixer, I was surprised he hadn't given up. But back then, Alice had been driven solely by revenge against me. Now that her grudge had been settled, she might be open to Ryan's advances. Despite his occasional inappropriate comments and prejudices, Ryan was undeniably an elite. With him, Alice might actually. Before I could finish the thought, a dull pain throbbed in my chest. I would have to carry this pain with me for the rest of my life. That was the only form of atonement I could offer her. From what I heard, the joint project was progressing smoothly. Apparently, the new product was aimed at overseas customers. Ryan, today's the meeting with the foreign company, right? Good luck. I think Alice is attending from Lewis Company, isn't she? Yes. But since Alice doesn't speak any foreign languages, I, with my experience studying abroad, will take the lead. Encouraged by Stephen, Ryan left the office with an air of confidence. Meanwhile, I went about my usual tasks in the department. Then, Stephen called out to me. David, sorry, but could you deliver this file to Ryan? It's for today's meeting, and I forgot to give it to him earlier. Me? You're the only one available right now. Please. Since it was Stephen asking, I couldn't refuse. I wasn't thrilled about possibly running into Alice, but if I just called Ryan out and handed him the file, it wouldn't be a problem. After getting the meeting location from Stephen, I quickly set off. On the way, I spotted Ryan sitting in a cafe. A quick scan of the area confirmed that Alice wasn't there. I felt a brief sense of relief, but it was quickly replaced by suspicion. Why was Ryan here? The meeting was starting in 10 minutes. If he ran, he might just make it in time. I entered the cafe, informed a staff member that I was meeting someone, and walked over to Ryan. The moment he noticed me, he let out a startled ugh. Beside him sat a cup filled to the brim with coffee. "Stephen asked me to bring you these documents for today's meeting. He forgot to give them to you earlier." "Oh, I see. Thanks." Ryan forced a smile and reached out his hand. "But I didn't give him the documents. What are you doing here? If you don't leave now, you'll be late for the meeting." "Ah, well, I wasn't feeling too great, so I thought I'd take a break." Just then, a waitress arrived and placed a plate in front of him with a stack of pancakes covered in whipped cream and fruit. I shot him a glare. "Oh? So you're feeling unwell, yet you can still eat a mountain of cream-covered pancakes?" Well, sweets give me energy. And besides, Alice is there, so it's fine. Alice doesn't speak any foreign languages." "You literally said that at the office." I accidentally raised my voice. Ryan flinched but made no move to leave. I checked the time. The meeting was about to start. Turning away from Ryan, who remained motionless, I sprinted toward the venue. Waiting for the elevator felt like a waste of time, so I took the emergency stairs. Racing up as fast as I could until I finally reached the conference room where Alice was. The meeting had already started. Even from outside the door, I could hear the commotion inside. English, Chinese, and German voices overlapped, creating a chaotic mix of languages. From what I could tell, they were all directing their anger at Alice. Taking a deep breath to steady myself, I knocked and opened the door. In the center of the room, surrounded by frustrated foreign clients, stood Alice, her face pale, on the verge of tears. I forced myself to stay calm and composed. "I sincerely apologize for the delay. My name is David Thompson from Lamb Corporation. The assigned representative, Ryan, suddenly fell ill and was unable to make it, so I have come in his place." I repeated the explanation in each of their languages. Understanding the reason for the delay, the clients seemed to calm down, stepping away from Alice and returning to their seats. Alice let out a relieved sigh before looking at me with confusion. "Leave this to me," I assured her. She nodded silently. In the end, the meeting was a resounding success. After it concluded, the clients, now satisfied, expressed their approval in their respective languages, saying things like, "This is a great product. We'll seriously consider purchasing it." I responded to each of them in their native tongue, expressing my gratitude. Once all the clients had left, Alice collapsed onto a chair. "Phew. I'm so glad that went well. At first, I thought I was done for. Good work. Thanks for helping. I wasn't involved in this project at all, so if you hadn't been here, I would have been completely lost." Alice bit her lip and lowered her gaze. Just then, Ryan burst into the room, looking frantic. "What the hell, David? I just ran into the clients, and they were all satisfied. They even said they didn't expect someone fluent in 3 languages. Don't tell me it was you." "That's exactly right. That's impossible. There's no way a high school graduate like you is trilingual." Ryan's outburst made me exhale deeply. "You should really stop judging people based on their education, Ryan. It's true that I only graduated from high school in Japan. What? I was sick of people like you, who only see titles and credentials. So I enrolled in a university overseas where no one knew me and graduated from there. I just never mentioned it at work." "No, that can't be. More importantly, how do you plan to take responsibility for what you did to Alice?" Sweat beaded on Ryan's forehead as I shot him a cold glare. Grinding his teeth, he suddenly pointed at Alice. "It's all her fault. She rejected me at the mixer, even though I, an elite, was willing to give her a chance. I couldn't accept that. So I swore I'd get revenge. And then this joint project came up. What perfect timing. Today, only Alice and I were supposed to represent our company. The clients only spoke foreign languages. If I faked an illness and didn't show up, she'd be completely helpless. The project would fall apart. And she'd take all the blame. It was the perfect plan. But you ruined it, David. Ryan. My sharp voice made him flinch. I stepped closer and placed a firm hand on his shoulder. Don't let hatred consume you. Never bring personal grudges into work. You're an elite, aren't you? What will you do if you lose everyone's trust because of this? Everything you worked so hard to build. Do you really want to throw it all away? Ryan, looking pale, slumped his shoulders. I was so blinded by anger that all I could think about was getting back at Alice. Thank you for stopping me, David. I'll take full responsibility for what I've done. What are you talking about? The deal was a success. You felt sick midway through and asked me to step in. Isn't that what happened? I patted his shoulder, and he looked at me in surprise. Then, I turned to Alice. Alice, Ryan made a terrible mistake. But he won't do anything like this again. Could you let this go? Ryan felt unwell during the meeting, so David took over in his place. That's why he arrived late. That's all there is to it, right? With a serious expression, Alice said those words. Ryan dropped to his knees on the spot and bowed deeply. I'm sorry, Alice. With that, the situation seemed to be resolved, and I let out a quiet sigh of relief. I was about to return to the company with Ryan, but when Alice said, David, will you stay? I decided to send Ryan back alone. The meeting room time is up. Let's go outside. Without a word, I followed behind Alice as she walked briskly ahead. She stopped at a park. I tilted my head, feeling a sense of familiarity, then realized it was the place where I had talked with Alice on the night of the mixer. And this park. I hadn't noticed it that night, but now. Alice sat down on a bench. She glanced at me, her expression quietly asking me to sit beside her, so I did. Her hands were tightly clasped on her lap. After a moment, she looked up at me with a determined expression. Thank you for today. If you hadn't come, things would have played out exactly as Ryan planned. But why did you help me? If you had left me there, it would have been the perfect revenge against me. Alice, do you really think I wanted revenge on you? But I did something terrible to you. She lowered her gaze, her hands trembling slightly. A faint ache stirred in my chest. You're right. You hurt me. But even so, I can't bring myself to hate you. I love you so much that even this pain you caused feels precious to me. Alice's eyes widened in shock. I gave her a small, gentle smile. Do you remember the conversation we had in this park? I told you about the girl I met as a child, the one who made me stop trusting people. That girl was you. You must have realized it when you heard my story. You could have revealed your identity when you rejected me. It would have hurt me even more. But you didn't. Because you're kind. Tears rolled down Alice's cheeks. No. I'm not kind at all. My father wasn't around, and my mother was always at work, so I was lonely. That's why I spent time at the park. That's where I met you. When you said, let's get married when we grow up, I was so happy. But then one day, you stopped coming. Soon after, my mother's job forced us to move. But I couldn't let go of you, so I chose a high school back in this town. And by chance, you were there too. I thought it was fate. I was so excited that I confessed to you on impulse, and then you rejected me. That's when my resentment started. She clenched her hands even tighter. I said it was revenge, but it was really just misplaced resentment. If I were truly kind, I wouldn't have hated you. I judged you as heartless without even knowing your circumstances. I was wrong about everything. I gently pulled the sobbing Alice into my arms, and as she rested her cheek against my chest, she cried even harder. Alice, don't blame yourself. I was no better. I rejected every confession without even looking at the person, assuming they were only after my family name. My arrogance hurt you. I'm truly sorry. She wrapped her arms around my back, clinging to me tightly. I stroked her hair. From now on, I won't let my own assumptions cloud my judgment. I will never hurt you again. And I will protect you from anything that tries to. So, Alice, will you accept my love? When I confessed, Alice looked up at me with tear-streaked eyes. Then she smiled and nodded before leaning in, pressing her lips softly against mine. A few days had passed since Alice officially became my girlfriend. When I got home one evening, my father summoned me to his study. I had been expecting this moment and braced myself. You've started dating a woman named Alice, haven't you? Yes. End it. I told you long ago that she is not a suitable match for our family. I remember. Back then, I gave up because of that. But meeting her again made me realize something. I love her. I don't want to lose her again. That's exactly what makes it dangerous. What will you do if you let emotions cloud your judgment, get married, and then regret it? If that happens, I'll accept it as the consequence of my own choices. But living with regret because I let her go would be far worse. And this isn't just a fleeting romance. I've loved Alice since I was a child. If you still say no, then I'm prepared to be disowned. We stared at each other in silence. Then, my father let out a deep sigh. That look in your eyes, you're serious about this. You've never stood up to me before, so this surprises me. I always thought you were still a child who needed my protection, but before I knew it, you had grown this much. He let out a deep sigh. Then, he looked at me once more. Bring her to our home. I will welcome her properly. Yes. Thank you. Seeing my relieved smile, my father, perhaps unconsciously, let out a small smile of his own. With his approval, I finally felt at ease and openly acknowledged that I was the son of the company president. From that moment on, I stopped avoiding my responsibilities and faced my work head-on. David, I'll take care of the copies. As I stood up to make copies for the upcoming meeting, Ryan reached out his hand and offered to do it. Since that day, Ryan had completely changed his attitude. He no longer talked about academic backgrounds and treated everyone with respect. The only downside was that he now looked at me with excessive admiration. No, I can handle making my own copies. It's no trouble. I have documents to copy as well, so I can do yours at the same time. Besides, you're juggling multiple projects and are really busy, aren't you? That's true. Still, I never expected to be given this much responsibility as soon as I started taking my work seriously. That's because your work is fast, precise, and flawless. Everyone relies on you not as the president's son, but as someone truly capable. Ryan was right. I had assumed that people only approached me because I was the president's son. But once I let go of that assumption, I realized that not everyone was like that. There were far more people than I had thought who genuinely respected me as a colleague. And besides, isn't today your date with Alice? If you end up working overtime, that would be a shame, wouldn't it? What? Ryan, how do you know about that? It's obvious. You dressed up more than usual, and you've been checking the time way more often, he said with a playful smile. I groaned, rubbing my temples. Was I really that easy to read? But just for today, I couldn't help it, I thought to myself. Finishing work exactly on time, I headed straight to my meeting spot with Alice. The place we agreed on was the same park where she had accepted my love, where we had first talked after the mixer, and where we had originally met as children. Alice was already there, sitting on our usual bench. When she spotted me, her face immediately lit up. Sorry to keep you waiting. It's fine. I just got here too. More importantly, are you hungry? She held out a lunchbox. Inside were rice balls, hamburger patties, and seasoned spinach. This looks delicious. Can I have some? Of course. I made it just for you. Spreading the lunchbox between us on the bench, we shared the meal together. Watching her smile, I felt not only my stomach but also my heart filling with warmth. After finishing, Alice packed up the lunchbox and tucked it away in her bag. Then, we held hands and gazed up at the moon. I've been to so many places with you, David, but this park is still my favorite. Just being next to you like this makes me happy. I feel the same way. But I want to be with you even more. I pulled a small box from my bag. Opening it, I took out a ring adorned with a gemstone and gently slipped it onto her finger. Sorry for making you wait 20 years. Will you marry me? Yes. I've been waiting all this time. With tears shimmering in her eyes, she smiled brightly, like a flower in full bloom. I had once judged people based on my own assumptions. But that narrow perspective had blinded me. Once I let go of my biases, I realized there were many people who truly valued me as a professional. And I swore to never let anyone hurt the person who taught me that lesson, my most beloved, Alice. This is the life I have chosen. A temp worker? So basically, just a part-timer who couldn't land a full-time job? The words, casually thrown across the table, stirred something unsettling in my chest. It happened at a mixer. I had been dragged here by a co-worker as a last-minute replacement, and now, the first woman I met was already looking at me with disdain. I thought we'd have things in common since we're all music school graduates. But can a temp worker even keep up with the conversation about music? I feel like our lifestyles are just too different, and honestly, it might just be awkward for you. She twirled her wine glass between her fingers, sneering as if to say I didn't belong. The other women exchanged subtle smiles, whispering to each other in hushed voices. It's true, I was just a temp at a mid-sized company. The only thing I could really take pride in was my fast typing speed. Sorry about this, Nathan. Ryan, my co-worker, scratched his head apologetically. Seeing his expression, I realized that staying here would only make things uncomfortable for both of us. Might as well leave early. Well then, I'll be heading out. Just as I was about to stand up. Wait a second. I'm a huge fan of yours. Can I get your autograph? A woman from the next table rushed over, holding out a CD. The entire room froze. The women who had spent the evening treating me like an outsider now sat in stunned silence. I hadn't planned on revealing anything, but at this point, there was no avoiding it. That was a long time ago. At that moment, I had no idea that this mixer would mark the beginning of a new chapter in my life. My name is Nathan. I work as a temp at a mid-sized company in Tokyo called Sterling Solutions. I'm assigned to the Media Development Department, where we coordinate with magazine publishers and online media. That said, my actual tasks are mostly data entry and organizing documents, back-office work, nothing major. Since I'm just a temp, I have no say in any major decisions. My role is simply to be accurate and fast. In particular, my value lies in my fast typing speed, which is the only reason I'm considered useful. To be honest, I'm fine with that. There's something calming about typing away in silence, preparing reports and proposals in the background. Back when I was struggling at the forefront of another industry, I never had this kind of peace. I don't crave the spotlight. I don't have any ambitions to stand out or make a name for myself at work. The uncertainty that comes with being a temp is always there, but I've convinced myself that this is where I belong. Still, there's one guy at the company I genuinely respect. Ryan, a full-time employee in my department. He's a year older than me, bright, easygoing, and treats everyone the same. Regardless of whether they're full-time or temp, he always makes a point to say things like, "Hey, Nathan. Thanks for all your help, and man, We'd be lost without you." His attitude, free of any divide between temps and full-time employees, has saved me more times than I can count. "Nathan, you're still working overtime?" That evening, as I sat at my desk inputting data, Ryan rushed over in a hurry. I glanced at the clock, just past 6 p.m. Technically, my shift was over, but I still had a bit of work left to wrap up. "Almost done." "What's up?" "Actually, there's a mixer tonight. One of the guys had to cancel last minute, so we're short on numbers." "Nathan, could you come help us out?" "A mixer, huh?" I paused my typing and looked at him. Ryan's expression was almost desperate, as if clinging to his last hope. "Look, I get it. You're probably not into these things. But this isn't just a random mixer. You know our client, that music magazine? This was set up as a networking opportunity. Some of us from our department were supposed to go, but one guy just called in sick with the flu. If we don't have enough people, it'll be awkward as hell. Come on, man, I need you." "The music magazine." "Oh, you mean Noble Artist or something like that?" "Yeah, that's the one." The editorial team of Noble Artist, led by Lena, is coming. Apparently, most of them are music school grads. Plus, from what I hear, they're all stunning. I only met them once, but they were definitely glamorous. But more importantly, they're our client. So we need to be professional. Please, Nathan, just come for a bit. It's true that our department frequently communicates with that music magazine. We coordinate column articles with our projects, explore potential collaborations between media platforms, and handle related paperwork. That said, my role is mostly behind the scenes, proofreading documents and checking for typos, so I rarely have the chance to meet anyone from the magazine in person. Meeting them face-to-face made me a little nervous, but if Ryan was struggling this much, I couldn't just leave him hanging. "All right. If you're asking that much, I'll go." "Really? Thanks, man. Seriously, I owe you one." "You don't need to worry about making conversation or anything, just having you there is enough. That actually makes it easier for me. I'm not great at starting conversations anyway." And with that, I wrapped up my work early and headed to the mixer with Ryan. The venue was a stylish bistro in the city, and when we arrived, the women were already seated. All three women had great figures and were clearly well dressed, making it obvious they put effort into their appearance. Seeing them, I couldn't help but feel a bit intimidated. So this is what music school graduates are like. One woman in particular, sitting toward the back, stood out as especially stunning. Her long black hair, styled in loose waves, shimmered under the light, leaving a striking impression. I instinctively knew this had to be Lena. "Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to join us tonight." Ryan took the lead in greeting everyone as the mixer officially began. The three music school graduates appeared to be colleagues from the magazine's editorial team. As introductions went around, I simply said, "I'm Nathan. I handle paperwork for our magazine collaborations." Lena turned to me with a curious look. "Excuse me, but are you from a different department? Have we met before?" "Ah, well, I'm a temp. My main tasks are data entry and proofreading, so I don't usually have the opportunity to interact with you all directly." As I gave a slight nod, Lena responded with a thin smile and said, "Oh, I see," as if she had just confirmed something. But her expression didn't show simple understanding, it carried a hint of condescension as if she was thinking, "Ah, that explains it." She took a sip of water, then lifted her chin slightly, looking down at me with quiet scrutiny. It was as if she was silently asking, "Are you sure a temp like you belongs at a mixer like this? Well, since you were kind enough to help even out the numbers, let's try to enjoy the evening, shall we?" Her words sounded polite, but there was a subtle sharpness in her tone. I felt it clearly as I took my seat. Ryan was trying his best to keep the conversation going, but I wasn't sure how well it would work. For me, the discomfort in my stomach had already started to set in. Still, Ryan kept the conversation moving, doing his best to engage everyone. So, what kind of articles do you write? You all went to music school, right? Oh, so you played the piano? Ryan continued firing off questions one after another, and gradually, the women started responding, opening up little by little. Apparently, all three of them had studied music since childhood: piano, violin, and vocal performance, before going on to major in it and eventually working in music journalism. I knew it, talking about music is always so much fun. I was really looking forward to having a great discussion about it tonight. After a brief pause, Lena let out an exaggerated sigh as she spoke. Sorry, but can you even keep up with this conversation, Mr. Temp? Hey, come on, Lena. Temps come from all sorts of backgrounds. Nathan is a capable guy. Ryan tried to smooth things over with a nervous chuckle, but Lena cut him off and continued speaking. That might be useful for work, but can he really contribute to our kind of conversation? Let's be real. Music isn't something you can pursue without financial stability. Honestly, considering that he's still working temp jobs, I just feel like we come from completely different worlds. Lena's words left me with no choice but to take a sip of my water. An unbearable silence settled over the table, surrounding us. Ryan kept talking, desperately trying to keep the conversation going, but it was clear that Lena and the other women had lost interest. Their energy had turned ice cold. Unable to bear the awkwardness any longer, I was about to stand up when Lena suddenly spoke. Maybe we should just call it here. No need to force yourself if you don't feel comfortable. You can leave if you want. Lena. The other women exchanged uneasy glances, as if even they felt she was taking it too far. But Lena simply crossed her arms, looking at me as if I were no longer worth her attention. Ryan, clearly flustered, hesitated, struggling to find the right words. But at this point, there was no reason to stay. Understood. I'll be leaving then. I stood up, reaching for my wallet. I'll pay for my share. But Ryan immediately shook his head to stop me. It's fine, Nathan. I've got this tonight. I feel bad for dragging you into this mess. Sorry about that. I wasn't much help. I lowered my head and was about to leave when suddenly, a woman from the next table stood up and rushed toward me. Excuse me. Are you Nate? Ha! I instinctively turned around, only to see the woman nervously pulling out her phone, glancing back and forth between me and the screen. While Lena and the others sat in stunned silence, the woman, her breath quickening, continued. I knew it. You're Nate, the pianist who won the grand prize at an international competition. I'm a huge fan of yours. I even have your CD. And it's worth a fortune now. Her voice wasn't particularly loud, but it was more than enough for everyone at the table to hear. Lena, who had spent the evening throwing insults my way, and other women froze mid-motion. Lena, who had been looking at me with disdain, was now staring, wide-eyed, as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. No way. That can't be right. You're just a temp worker, aren't you? Her voice trembled slightly, as if her entire perception of the world had been turned upside down. But before she could process it, the woman from the next table continued excitedly. Don't you know? He's won multiple international competitions and used to perform all over Europe. He's not as well known in Japan, but overseas. He's still incredibly famous. She beamed as she held out her phone and a pen. Could I get your autograph? Revealing my identity like this wasn't something I had ever intended. But after she went out of her way to approach me, I didn't want to disappoint her. With a quiet resolve, I took the notepad and signed my name. I felt a slight tremor in my right hand as I held the pen. It's just something from the past. It's not a big deal. I bowed slightly as I handed back the paper, and she thanked me over and over again before returning to her seat, looking absolutely thrilled. Lena and the other women, who had been watching the entire exchange in shock, were at a complete loss for words. When our eyes met, Lena quickly looked away, clearly uncomfortable. "Well then, I'll be going." With that, I left the mixer behind. Stepping outside, I took a deep breath of the cool night air, feeling my heart pounding in my chest. I had thought my life as a pianist was behind me. I had convinced myself that, as long as I stayed in Japan, I could live quietly, unknown. But now that my past had been exposed in such an unexpected way, the emotions I had buried deep inside were stirring once again. Music is not something that can be forgotten so easily. With that realization sinking in, I quickened my pace toward the station. The next morning, running on little sleep, I arrived at work only to find Ryan already waiting at my desk. Apparently, last night's events had already become office gossip. I wasn't thrilled about my past being dragged back into the spotlight, but Ryan, eyes sparkling with excitement, was practically bouncing in place. "Nathan, you're seriously a world-renowned pianist? I can't believe the scene you caused at that mixer. It was a long time ago, so it doesn't matter anymore. I'm just a temp worker now, doing office tasks like everyone else." I shrugged, but Ryan shook his head, clearly not buying it. "Still, that's an insane story. Do you even play it all these days?" "Not really. Making a living in the music world is tough. The competition is brutal, and honestly, it was too much for me to carry. That's why I walked away. Now, I just focus on typing. I guess that suits me better." "Man, that's such a waste." Ryan frowned, clearly wanting to say more but holding himself back. He wasn't the type to pity or lecture people, and I appreciated that he didn't push the topic any further. Turning back to my desk, I placed my fingers on the keyboard. There was something oddly calming about it. It wasn't the piano keys, but the feeling of my fingers moving across the keyboard hadn't changed. That brief moment of quiet was quickly interrupted when my boss, William Tate, suddenly called out, "Come to my office for a moment." When I arrived at his office, the usually stern and serious William stood up from his chair, looking, surprisingly, somewhat pleased. "Nathan, I need you to take a seat." "Excuse me. What is this about?" William Tate picked up a document from the stack on his desk and handed it to me. It was a review summary of a music column I had previously written as part of my work. If I remembered correctly, it was something I had added a few lines to while checking a draft for one of our client magazines. My supervisor had asked me to make minor adjustments, nothing more. This got excellent feedback from the client. They said it was clear, well written, and showed deep knowledge of the subject. "I also heard you used to play the piano. Seems like word has gotten around." My heart skipped a beat at his words. Trying to keep my composure, I responded casually, "Yes, well, just a little, nothing serious." Doesn't sound like just a little to me. Anyway, the magazine wants to make this column a regular feature. And we'd like you to take charge of it. Wait, me? That's right. The client is on board with the idea as well. We need to work out the details. So I'd like you to visit their office soon to discuss it. I never imagined I would end up being in charge of a regular column. Just a short while ago, I was a temp worker being mocked at a mixer, and now, an opportunity like this had come my way. It was almost ironic. I felt a little hesitant, but since it was an official assignment, I had no reason to refuse. I accepted the offer. When I returned to my desk, Ryan immediately leaned in, his face full of curiosity. "William just called you in. What was that about?" "Yeah, looks like they want to make the music column a regular thing, and I'm going to be in charge of it." "Seriously? That's amazing. I knew it, once a pianist, always a pianist." "Cut it out. That's in the past. But yeah, I need to meet with the client to go over the details." "The client? Wait, you mean that music magazine?" Ryan's eyes widened as he exclaimed, "Ah. That magazine, the one where I had been humiliated at the mixer. I had the same thought at that very moment. There was a real chance I would run into Lena again. Ugh, this is going to be a pain. I'd rather not see her again if I can help it. But reality wasn't so kind. A few days later, I headed to the client's office with William. We took the elevator up to the designated floor, and as we stepped into the magazine's reception area, I could already sense the polished, high-class atmosphere. When we were led to the meeting room, and I cautiously opened the door, my suspicions were confirmed. There, sitting at the table, was none other than Lena, the same woman who had looked down on me at the mixer and bluntly told me, "You can leave now." I hadn't expected to run into her again so soon. As I stepped inside and took a seat beside William, Lena's expression faltered for just a moment. But she quickly composed herself, straightening her posture and offering a professional smile as she handed me her business card. After the formal introductions, I took her business card, feeling somewhat nervous. Then, William went over the outline of the upcoming column series. Across from me, Lena listened attentively, jotting down notes with a serious expression. The meeting proceeded smoothly, and William seemed satisfied. Then, as we wrapped things up, William suddenly stood, saying, "Nathan, I'll leave the rest of the details to you. I have another meeting to attend." Before I could protest, he walked out, leaving just the two of us in the room. A faintly awkward silence filled the air as I gathered my materials, wondering how to break the ice. Surprisingly, Lena was the first to speak. She placed her hand gently on the documents in front of her. "About the other night. I wanted to apologize for the way I spoke to you." "Ha!" I was so caught off guard that I let out an unintentionally dumbfounded sound. I had never expected such a direct apology from her. Lena bit her lip, as if steeling herself, and continued, "I feel ashamed of myself. Music is supposed to be something that transcends background and status, but that night, I judged you based on labels, whether you were a temp, what your title was, and I treated you terribly because of it." Her voice was steady, but I could hear a hint of self-reproach beneath it. "After that night, I couldn't stop thinking about your music. So I searched everywhere until I finally got my hands on your CD because someone in a mixer said you had won a competition abroad. And when I listened to it, I was stunned. Each note resonated so deeply that it took my breath away. And just imagining the sheer amount of effort and dedication it must have taken to play like that almost brought me to tears." The more Lena spoke, the more emotion crept into her voice. She had once studied music herself. Maybe that's why she could recognize the years of discipline and passion embedded in my playing. But that's exactly why I realized just how cruel my words were. "Without knowing anything about your journey, I dismissed you just because you were a temp, and I assumed our lives were too different. I judged you unfairly, looked down on you. That's not something a person who truly loves music should ever do. I know I made you feel awful that night, and I'm truly sorry. I know that an apology won't erase the things I said, and I can't take back what I did, but..." Lena hesitantly lifted her head, letting out a small sigh, as if weighed down by an overwhelming sense of guilt. Then, she bowed deeply, and seeing her like that, I felt a quiet warmth spread in my chest. Back at the mixer, I never would have imagined her sincerely admitting her mistake and apologizing like this. For a moment, I couldn't find the words to respond, so I simply lowered my gaze to the documents on the table. "It's okay." Honestly, I wasn't exactly calm that night either. "Sure, your words did hurt, but now that you've properly apologized, so I'm fine." Hearing that, Lena slowly lifted her head. The moment our eyes met, I noticed a faint shimmer of tears in the depths of hers, and for some reason, it made my chest ache. "From now on, I'll make sure never to judge people that way again. And when I talk about music with you, I want to do it with the respect you deserve. I know it might be too late, but I hope that through this project, I can make it up to you in some way." Lena spoke as if she had made up her mind. Her words carried a sincerity that felt completely genuine. I never even tried to speak up for myself that night, and I let the atmosphere get uncomfortable too. So, don't worry about it too much. Now that we're working together, it would be exhausting if things were awkward between us. I allowed myself a small smile as I spoke. Lena, looking relieved, smiled back. Thank you. Well then, let's get to work on the column. With that, she straightened up, gathering her notes and shifting back to a professional tone. Although there was still some awkwardness between us, the tense atmosphere from before had completely shifted. And it now felt like we could have a productive discussion. I wondered if the pain of my past, which had been unexpectedly brought back to the surface, could start to heal simply by having someone acknowledge and understand it. This quiet thought slowly spread through my chest. A few days later, I was once again sent to Noble Artist magazine's editorial office under William's orders. This time, it was to finalize the structure and schedule for the column series. When I arrived at the office, the atmosphere was even more chaotic than before. Phones rang nonstop at the front desks, while in the back, staff members were buried under stacks of cardboard boxes, frantically working. Excuse me. Could you let Lena from Noble Artist know I'm here for the meeting? I approached a busy-looking staff member carrying a pile of documents. The woman glanced toward the back of the office and said, "Oh, Lena? She's over there," pointing in her direction. Following her gaze, I spotted Lena. "Lena, your meeting guest is here." As the woman called out to her, Lena lifted her head from the documents, and our eyes met. For a brief moment, she gave me a slightly apologetic smile. "Sorry, I'll be right there." She quickly set down her pen and started walking toward me, her movements slightly stiff and awkward. However, before she could reach me, her co-workers began calling out to her one after another. "Lena, can you handle this? It's urgent. Oh, and while you're at it, can you check this classical music feature? You studied music, so you can read scores, right? Also, the artist interview transcription deadline got moved up, so we need that done ASAP." The requests piled on relentlessly, each one casually dumped on her with an air of expectation. Each time Lena forced a polite smile and responded with, "Got it." Her co-workers simply handed off their tasks and walked away as if it were the most natural thing in the world. It was hard to watch. "Are you okay?" I instinctively lowered my voice and asked, and Lena, her lips twisting slightly in frustration, said, "Let's step outside for the meeting," before leading me away. She led me to a small meeting space in the corner of the floor. It was a semi-private booth designed for interviews. Here, we could talk without worrying about being overheard. "Sorry, you ended up seeing me in an awkward situation." Lena remained seated as she let out a deep sigh. I took a seat across from her and shrugged. Honestly, it worked out. No way we could have had a proper discussion in the middle of all that. "So, is this a regular thing? People just dumping work on you like that?" I hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to respond. "Well, if taking on the extra work helps everyone else, I guess I don't mind." As she spoke, she carefully held onto her documents before spreading them out on the table. A quick glance revealed various planning notes and project proposals scattered across the pages. I entered this industry because I wanted to introduce more people to music. Classical music and jazz, in particular, tend to be seen as too complex or intimidating, which makes people shy away from them. As someone who studied music, I really wanted to change that perception. But whenever I voiced my opinions, people dismissed me, saying things like, "Oh, another music school graduate acting like an expert." Lena let out a small sigh and lowered her eyebrows in self-mockery. In our editorial team, most people come from general universities. They have great editing skills. But the moment I try to introduce even a little specialized knowledge, I get accused of showing off. Honestly, I've never really fit in. She cast her eyes downward, her expression turning somber. Before I knew it, I started putting up this wall in my mind, telling myself that only other music school graduates would understand me. That's probably why I acted the way I did at the mixer. It's ironic, isn't it? I became exactly the kind of arrogant music school graduate people expect us to be. She bit her lip, frustration and regret clear in her demeanor. Then, why don't we use this project as an opportunity? Leaning forward slightly, I spoke with intent. Among the documents she had laid out, I noticed ideas that went beyond just classical music and jazz. There were notes on pop music and film music as well, showing an effort to bridge the gap between niche and mainstream audiences. If she could use her expertise in a way that made music more accessible, it wouldn't just change how the editorial team saw her, it could redefine her role within the magazine. You'd really help me? Her eyes met mine, filled with uncertainty and a flicker of hope. Of course. If you don't mind working with me, I'd be happy to. As I picked up some of the notes and scanned through them, I could see her ideas had real potential. A feature that covered everything from pop music to film scores. If executed well, it could be something truly engaging. At first, I was only planning classical music-focused features. But then our chief editor, Margaret, told me to think about a broader readership. So I tried forcing in pop and film music elements, but it started feeling scattered, and I lost confidence in how to bring it all together. She smiled wryly, running her fingers over a heavily marked up notepad. The red ink and highlighter scribbles covering the pages spoke volumes about how much she had struggled. That just makes me want to help even more, I said with a nod. Having studied piano overseas, I had been exposed to a wide variety of music beyond classical music. I lacked editing experience, but if the goal was to introduce musical diversity in an engaging way, I might actually be able to contribute something useful. Thank you. I feel a bit relieved. Saying that, Lena let out a small smile. A few days later, Lena and I visited a music festival held in a commercial plaza, searching for ideas for our column. The lineup was incredibly diverse: pop music performances, choral singing, and even kids' dance showcases. While young children bounced around excitedly, an elderly couple sat together on a nearby bench, quietly humming along to a nostalgic melody. The open, relaxed atmosphere was infectious, and before long, we were just as excited as the festival goers. Look over there. They have a choir performance for kids. It's adorable. But wait, the side stage has a live band playing too. Ugh. Where do we even start? Holding the event pamphlet, Lena's eyes sparkled as she spoke excitedly beside me. Unlike the structured atmosphere of a classical music concert hall, people here spread out blankets on the grass, sipped drinks, and enjoyed the music casually. She seemed completely fascinated by the scene. What if we focus on ways to help people navigate multiple stages efficiently? If we're writing an article, we could introduce strategies for making the most of the festival experience. When I suggested while flipping through the pamphlet, "That's a great idea," Lena nodded eagerly. Even just standing there, inspiration struck from all directions as music poured in from the various stages. Yeah, if we mapped out optimal routes between performances, readers might feel more encouraged to attend next time. Also, I noticed a lot of older attendees. Maybe including info on seating areas and restrooms would be helpful, too. While we brainstormed, the festival continued in full swing. Unlike a traditional concert setting, where there's a clear divide between the stage and the audience, here, everyone felt like they were part of the performance. Lena, still clutching the pamphlet, was completely absorbed in the scene unfolding before her. The following week, the festival report and column we had put together were published on Noble Artist's website, and the response was overwhelming. Rather than just reviewing the performances, our article highlighted practical tips like suggested walking routes, seating options, and accessibility details, which resonated deeply with readers. On social media, people shared comments like, "I wasn't really into music festivals, but this makes me want to go, and this seems perfect for attending with my elderly parents." Within the editorial team, excitement spread as people remarked, this is a fresh take on festival coverage. And we could use this approach for future projects, turning the office into a mini celebration and rapidly boosting Lena's reputation. That morning, when I arrived at Noble Artist's office for a follow-up meeting, I was greeted by a beaming Lena. "Nathan, thank you so much. I never imagined the festival article would get such a huge response. The entire editorial team is already asking when we can do the next one. I just threw in a few suggestions. Your reporting and writing made it what it was," I said, trying to downplay my role. Still, hearing her express her gratitude so openly, I had to admit, it didn't feel bad at all. But it was thanks to you, Nathan, that readers realized music is more accessible than I thought. Your ideas about navigation routes and perspectives for older audiences really made a difference. Even Margaret praised it, saying, "This kind of practical approach is important, and I learned a lot from it too." So once again, thank you. Lena smiled a little shyly and bowed her head. At that moment, a low voice sounded from right behind us. Well, so this is the temp worker I've been hearing about." Startled, I turned around to find Stephen, the deputy editor-in-chief, standing there with his arms crossed. He was of average build, but there was something sharp and calculating about his presence. Lena immediately straightened her posture and muttered, "Stephen," in a low voice. "I hear the festival article was well received." Margaret was pleased that it introduced a fresh perspective. "Quite impressive." I gave a small nod. "Thank you." That being said, Stephen crossed his arms again, tilting his chin slightly as he looked down at me. "You got lucky this time, but don't expect to keep producing hits so easily. Don't let it get to your head." That's a little harsh to say. Lena, you're one of the rising stars in our editorial team. You're being trusted with major projects, and Margaret wants to push your name out there. And yet, you're working with a temp? Stephen shrugged, curling his lips in a half-smile. Lena's patience finally snapped. "Stephen, that's uncalled for. Nathan is one of our business partners, and he played a crucial role in this project." "What you're saying is, I know that. That's why I praised him at the start, didn't I?" Stephen deliberately kept his voice calm as he cut Lena off. "But Lena, the weight of responsibility is different between us and a temp. Temps are nothing more than part-timers." "Must be nice, huh? You temps don't have to care about the company's numbers at all." Lena's brows furrowed sharply, and she glared up at him. "Stephen, Nathan takes his work seriously, and to me, he's an invaluable partner. Dismissing him like that is completely disrespectful." Stephen fell silent for a moment before letting out a short scoff. Is that so? Well, temps are easily replaceable. The moment they're deemed useless, they're out. Do your best while you still can." With that, he turned on his heel and walked away, disappearing into the back of the editorial office. A heavy silence remained between Lena and me. "I'm sorry, Nathan. Stephen is just like that. He always has something to say, but this time, he really crossed the line." Lena muttered in frustration, glancing at me. "It's okay. Don't worry about it. What Stephen said isn't entirely wrong. I am just a temp, after all." Before I could finish, Lena shook her head forcefully. "That's not true. I rely on you, and I trust you more than anyone else." Her tone was firmer than usual. In her eyes, I saw a level of anger far greater than I had expected. "Lena." Hearing me say her name, she let out a slow breath, relaxing her shoulders slightly. A faint blush colored her cheeks. "I mean, I'm not really in a position to say that, am I?" After saying that, Lena quietly lowered her gaze and traced the edge of her documents on the table with her fingertip. For the longest time, I wasn't given any real opportunities. Every time I pitched something, I was told, "There's no budget for that," or "There's no demand for it." She paused for a moment, biting her lip lightly. But when we worked on the festival article, you actually took my ideas seriously. You didn't just agree with me, but you also helped me make them better. You showed me how to refine them and connect ideas in ways that excite readers. You stayed with me through all of it. And that meant everything to me. Lena's eyes seemed slightly teary. But it wasn't just weakness. Instead, there was a quiet yet unshakable determination, a strength that showed her resolve to keep moving forward. That's why I can't just stand by when people like Steven look down on you. You're the first real partner I've ever had. And I won't let anyone belittle that. Her words were firm, clear, and filled with an unwavering sincerity. Thank you. Honestly, what he said hurt a little, but if you believe in me that much, then I think I can keep going. I smiled, and Lena responded with a slightly bashful smile of her own. The roughness left by Steven's words hadn't completely faded, but more than that, Lena's trust in me as a true partner quietly warmed my heart. That evening, as our meeting wrapped up, Lena hurried over, looking slightly flustered. Nathan, do you have a moment? I need to go see Margaret now. Would you come with me? Margaret? Sure. I answered immediately, and Lena let out a relieved sigh. She quickly led me down the hallway toward Margaret's office. Lena knocked on the door, and a composed female voice responded from inside. Come in. I had heard from Ryan and other employees that Margaret, the editor-in-chief of Noble Artist, was both feared and respected, strict yet capable of showing a softer side when needed. As we entered, Margaret was focused on the documents on her desk, but upon noticing us, she swiveled her chair around and gave a quiet smile. Lena and Nathan, you both did an excellent job on the recent project. Thanks to you, the festival feature became a huge topic, and the reader survey results were overwhelmingly positive. Thank you. Lena bowed her head. I stood beside her, feeling a bit nervous. Margaret tapped the stack of papers on her desk to straighten them before lowering her voice slightly. There's another project I want to ask you to take on. This one is something of a personal initiative, frankly. It's going to be a high-stakes gamble. And with that comes significant risk. Her resolute tone made both Lena and me instinctively hold our breath. Margaret pulled out a single sheet from the stack and gently placed it on the table. If this project doesn't succeed, we may have no choice but to consider shutting down the magazine entirely. What? Lena's voice was barely above a whisper, laced with shock. I was at a loss for words as well. According to Margaret, Noble Artist's circulation had been declining year by year, and the company was putting increasing pressure on the editorial team. The success of the festival article had been recognized as a crucial turning point, leading Margaret to make the bold decision to launch a large-scale project now. Seeing the response to the column you created, I knew we still had a chance. Rather than treating music as something exclusive, we need to integrate it seamlessly into everyday life. That's the approach we've been missing. That's why I'm placing my bet on this project. And I want both of you to take it seriously. Of course, the pressure will be immense, but what do you say? Lena closed her eyes tightly for a moment, taking a deep breath before looking back at Margaret. Please let me do it. I've always wanted to work on a project that could determine the future of this magazine. I will make sure it succeeds. Her voice was unwavering, filled with determination. I gave a small nod beside her, making up my mind. I want to help too. Margaret smiled quietly. Thank you. And with that, we stepped into a project that would decide the future of the magazine. The next day, with such a major project in her hands, Lena had quickly become the center of attention in the editorial department. However, along with that, the pressure from the upper management was intense. As she remained glued to her desk, immersed in work, there was an unmistakable tension in her posture. Lena, are you okay? Noticing that she still hadn't taken a break for lunch, I spoke up, and Lena responded with a small, wry smile. Sorry, I just don't have an appetite. The pressure is getting to me. If I screw this up, the magazine could shut down, right? Just thinking about it makes my stomach hurt. It was the first time I had seen Lena, usually so energetic, looking this worn down. And it was understandable. Shouldering the responsibility for a project that could affect everyone's careers and dreams was an unimaginable burden. Seeing her like that, I gently pulled her away from her desk and led her to a quieter meeting space. Sitting there stressing out won't help. Let's take a break. She nodded without resistance and sank into a chair. Thanks. And sorry for dragging you into this, Nathan. I know I have to do my best, but I just feel like I'm spinning my wheels. Seeing her slump slightly, I was reminded of my own past. The time when I was crushed under the weight of expectations in the piano world, the bitter memory of walking away from the stage surfaced in my mind. Actually, I've been in a similar situation before. After winning a major competition, everyone kept asking me, "What's next? When's your next performance?" The pressure never stopped. Eventually, just placing my fingers on the piano keys made my hands tremble. The sounds in my head stopped making sense. Lena looked at me in surprise. I let out a small, self-deprecating chuckle. And then, I lost the ability to play. Just looking at a piano made my fingers shake. In the end, I couldn't keep up with the competition and meet expectations, so I quit. That's why I'm working as a temp now. The emptiness and frustration I had felt after losing my ability to play weighed heavy on my mind again. I had wanted to forget that moment forever, but watching Lena brought back the pain as vividly as if it had happened yesterday. Nathan. I had no idea. Lena let out a small, sharp breath. So that's exactly why I understand. The more you push yourself, the more pressure tightens around you. But if handled the right way, pressure can be turned into strength. I failed to do that, so I don't want you to go through the same thing. I looked straight at her as I continued. Being told that the future of the magazine rests on your shoulders, that's an impossible weight for anyone to bear alone. But you're not alone, Lena. I'm here, and so is the rest of the team. Let's work through this together, figure things out one step at a time. You don't have to take it all on by yourself. Lena let out a deep breath and closed her eyes for a brief moment. When she opened them again, I noticed a slight shimmer of tears welling up. Thank you. Just having you here somehow makes everything feel lighter. I can't let this pressure crush me. I think I'll try to ease up a little. She swallowed hard and forced a small smile. Think you can eat something now? When I asked, Lena hesitated for a second before nodding with a sheepish expression. Yeah, I guess I should grab something. We need to talk through the project anyway, and I should keep my energy up. The tension in her expression had visibly eased. I felt a quiet sense of relief. There's a great sandwich place nearby. I'll grab us something to go, and we can go over our plans while we eat. Thanks, Nathan. Having you here really makes a difference. Lena smiled softly, a slight blush rising to her cheeks. I smiled back. This project would determine the future of the magazine, and the pressure was immense. But if I could match my pace with hers, support her step by step, I was sure we could make it through. Over the next few days, Lena and I spent every waking moment refining our ideas, barely taking time to rest. If we're going to do this, we need a concept that makes people want to attend. We can't just rely on traditional classical music, we need to incorporate more casual styles and dynamic stage performances. Then let's integrate social media. If we can live stream the concert and engage with audiences who can't attend in person, we'll expand our reach. And what if we make it interactive? Maybe an app where people can vote on setlists or request songs in real time. It would make them feel part of the experience. As we brainstormed, the project began evolving into something much bigger than just another music concert. We dug through Lena's carefully gathered research, and I tapped into my experiences from overseas music festivals, exchanging ideas late into the night. At times, we pulled in other team members from the editorial department, discussing the feasibility of different aspects. As the draft started to take shape, Margaret widened her eyes in surprise as she reviewed the submitted project proposal. "I see. This is incredible. It's not just about drawing in readers, but also about showcasing the true breadth of music's reach. This aligns with our magazine's identity while also appealing to an audience we've overlooked until now. I love it. Let's move forward with this." Lena clenched her fists in excitement, her voice full of emotion. "Thank you so much." And with that, the project that would decide the future of the magazine officially set into motion. We had to make it a success. With that silent vow between us, we took our first steps into the next stage. As the project progressed, our ideas ranging from social media-driven audience engagement to stage layout optimizations gained unexpected momentum. The editorial team threw their full support behind the promotional campaign, and on the day of the event, the venue was nearly packed. Even before the concert had begun, the air inside the hall buzzed with anticipation. "This is incredible. So many people actually showed up." Lena gazed out at the audience from behind the curtain, murmuring with deep emotion. Unable to believe that the project she had helped create had drawn such a large crowd. Her expression was filled with anticipation rather than nervousness. "Everything will be fine. The rehearsals went perfectly, the stage is ready, and the performers are all set. Let's just focus on supporting them as best we can." I reassured her, and she nodded firmly, clenching her fists in determination. As the concert began, the program flowed seamlessly. A young violinist mesmerized the audience with stunning technique, followed by a pop singer who electrified the room. The diverse lineup kept the audience engaged, their cheers and applause never ceasing. Even online, the event was gaining traction. Viewer numbers on the live stream kept rising, and social media was flooded with comments like, "I've never seen a concert this exciting before." Just one or two more performances, and then it's time for the final act, the main pianist. She glanced down at the program, carefully confirming the remaining schedule. I had heard that this pianist was chosen to symbolize the fusion of a seasoned maestro and an emerging talent. But we still haven't heard from them, have we? The final pianist should be on soon, but there's been no contact yet. When I asked out of concern, Lena furrowed her brows in confusion. "You're right. He might be running late. Steven said he arranged everything through his own connections, so we should leave it to him." Just a few minutes later, a staff member rushed over, his face pale. "It's a disaster. The main pianist hasn't arrived yet. We can't even get in touch with him." Lena was momentarily speechless before she quickly scanned the area for Steven. And as if waiting for this very moment, Steven stepped out from the shadows backstage, his posture relaxed and composed. "The pianist is already decided." "What?" Lena shot Steven a sharp glare. I felt a sinking sense of dread and held my breath. He's right here, after all. A world-renowned pianist. Steven pointed directly at me. There was an undeniable malice in his gesture. "How do you even know about that? I planned this from the very beginning. Did you really think I'd waste my time bringing in a top-tier pianist for some run-of-the-mill concert? You were always the plan. The internet is already buzzing." He pulled out his phone and held up the screen. Social media was flooded with posts like, "Is the legendary pianist Nate making a comeback?" It seemed someone had leaked the information, fueling excitement not only among those at the venue but also in the online community. "This is absurd." Lena clenched her fists, shaking with anger. "You never even booked a pianist in the first place, did you? This was your plan all along?" Steven merely smiled, unfazed. How else were we supposed to make this event a success? A rookie writer and a temp worker throwing together an event like this? Please. The only way to make a splash was to force the narrative. You don't want the magazine to shut down, right? Then have your so-called trusted pianist play. His words were beyond selfish, and they were cruel. You don't have to listen to this scumbag. Lena's voice was filled with barely restrained fury. But Stephen merely chuckled. Relax, Lena. Even if this magazine folds, I'll make sure you're taken care of. Of course, I'll expect some gratitude in return. Lena's eyes widened in shock, her fists clenching so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Stephen, still wearing his smug smirk, looked down at her as if she were insignificant. We're about to start. A staff member called out, urgency lacing his voice. The tension in the air thickened. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt, then took a deep breath. I'll play. Lena whipped around, her eyes filled with worry. But it's fine. This is how we'll make the event a success. Even as I spoke, my heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. I had once crumbled under the weight of expectations, running away from the piano. That painful memory resurfaced, and sweat began to bead in my palms. Then, Lena reached out and gently touched my fingers. She could feel them trembling. Her eyes met mine, and she shook her head weakly. You're shaking. You can't. I was scared. That much was undeniable. But I couldn't run away. Not this time. I always thought I had nothing left. But in the end, the only thing I truly had was the piano. And with it, I'll protect you. The moment I said it, Lena's eyes welled up with tears, and she gently squeezed my hand. No matter what happens, I'll be right here with you. You're not alone. Her words burned warmly within me, steadying my resolve. Stephen's scheming had forced me into this unwanted stage. But there was no other way. I had to use this situation to make it a success. The stage lights dimmed, and the audience fell into a hushed silence. For the first time in years, my hands touched a grand piano. As soon as my right hand rested on the piano keys, I felt a slight tremor in my fingertips. The fear I had once experienced crept back, slowly seeping into my body. But this time, I wasn't alone. I took a deep breath. And I exhaled, letting my breath carry away the trembling in my fingers. Back then, I lost. But I wouldn't run away again. I made that promise to myself. And the moment I struck the first note, I felt the entire hall hold its breath. Uncontrollable emotions poured through my fingertips and into the piano keys. The piece I had performed countless times in international competitions now carried the weight of my emotions, woven into every note. At first, my fingers were stiff, but as I passed the first few measures, they began to move more fluidly. It was as if the music was telling me, "Welcome back." My heart trembled with warmth. As the piece approached its climax, applause rippled through the audience. It had been years since I last stood on a stage and heard this sound. The applause I had once feared now felt strangely comforting. As I struck the final note and let it fade into the hall, there was a brief moment of silence, before a roaring wave of applause and cheers erupted. Bathed in the stage lights, I reached for the microphone. Nice to meet you, or maybe, it's been a while. My name is Nathan. My voice shook slightly, but I looked out at the audience and continued. After winning a major competition, I couldn't handle the pressure and abandoned the stage. But today, I played again because I had people who believed in me, who supported me. She, and so many others, taught me that if you have someone by your side, you can always try again. If there's anyone out there struggling like I did, I hope my music can be a small source of strength for you. The applause swelled even louder. I saw people in the audience wiping away tears. From the wings, Lena was also clapping, her eyes glistening with emotion. As relief, gratitude, and a long-lost sense of fulfillment flooded my chest, I bowed deeply. The moment I stepped backstage, Lena ran straight toward me. Without hesitation, she threw her arms around me, holding me tightly. "Nathan, thank you so much." Tears streamed down her cheeks, falling onto my shoulder. The faint scent of her shampoo and the tremor in her breath matched the pounding in my chest. "Thank you too. Because you believed in me, I was able to stand up again." As I spoke, I gently wrapped my arms around her in return. I had once been defeated by fear, unable to face the stage. But now, I had returned to the piano, able to share music once more. And it was all because she had been there to support me. "Heh, what's with this cheesy drama?" A familiar, unpleasant voice cut through the moment, freezing the air around us. Turning around, I saw Stephen standing there with his arms crossed, wearing a sour expression. "Come on, it's thanks to my plan that the legendary pianist made his grand comeback, right? The magazine won't have to shut down after all. If anything, I should be the one taking the credit." He sneered, his face devoid of the panic he had shown earlier. The audience's reaction and the social media buzz made it clear the event was a massive success. And now, he was trying to claim all the glory for himself. Just then, a firm, commanding voice rang out from behind us. "Stephen, what you did is absolutely unacceptable." The sound of heels clicking against the floor echoed as Margaret stepped into view. Keeping her expression calm, she stared Stephen down and continued. "You deliberately withheld a professional pianist, used Nathan to stir up controversy, and manipulated the media. That alone is a blatant violation of company policy. Furthermore, your inappropriate remarks toward Lena and your blatant discrimination against Nathan as a temporary employee, none of it can be ignored." TCH, Stephen clicked his tongue in annoyance and turned his face away. I had to do it, or this event might not have been a success. In the end, everyone benefited, didn't they? So what's the problem? Margaret kept her sharp gaze fixed on him as she responded. Rather than saying everyone benefited, it would be more accurate to say that you trampled on the goodwill and efforts of others. Your actions require the company to consider disciplinary measures. Of course, we'll thoroughly investigate the details, but for now, you need to step down. The surrounding staff shot him cold glances, and Stephen's expression soured as if he had lost his place. He glanced at Lena, but she remained silent, suppressing her anger, her rejection of him clear. In the end, Stephen's lips trembled as if he wanted to say something, but without uttering a word, he turned on his heel and walked away quickly. Phew! Margaret let out a short sigh and then turned to face me. Nathan, I truly appreciate everything you've done. I deeply regret that we put you through this situation. I never expected Stephen to take such drastic measures. She bowed deeply. Following her lead, the surrounding staff also lowered their heads apologetically. No, it's fine. In the end, I found the resolve to stand on stage again. And if this has saved the magazine, that makes me happier than anything. Margaret smiled with relief before turning to Lena. Lena, you did an amazing job. Without your initial ideas, this event might not have come together at all. Thanks to you, the threat of the magazine being shut down has been averted. Hearing that, Lena wiped her tears and let out a small smile. Thank you. But it was because Nathan was there that I didn't give up until the very end. She looked at me with eyes still swollen from crying, yet shining brighter than ever. A few days after the event's resounding success, Stephen was ultimately fired for violating company regulations, workplace harassment, and inappropriate behavior. Officially, it was labeled as a voluntary resignation to avoid further scandal, but word of his misconduct spread rapidly throughout the industry. His future looked bleak, and no one knew where he had gone or what he was doing now. He would likely never return to the public eye. Meanwhile, my unexpected comeback, which had started as part of the magazine rescue project, had caught the attention of media and social networks. Because of this, under Margaret's initiative, Noble Artist decided to feature a special article about my journey as a pianist. The piece covered my early years in music, my struggles in international competitions, and the pressures that led me to abandon the stage. The candid account resonated with many readers, significantly boosting the magazine's sales. On social media, comments like "Now is the perfect time to listen to music" and "This comeback story is so inspiring" flooded in, increasing the publisher's stock value. The story of the legendary pianist's return had become the driving force behind the magazine's revival. Now, I had left my temporary job behind and fully resumed my career as a pianist. Opportunities to perform at domestic and international concerts and music festivals had increased, and my schedule was becoming as packed as it had been before. At the same time, I started receiving messages I had never expected. On social media and through emails, people wrote, "I want to hear your performance again and I'm cheering for you," leading to a growing community of fans connecting with each other. There's even talk about setting up a fan club for me. It feels so weird. I sighed as I sat on the edge of a desk. Lena, who had been bustling around the editorial office for a while, heard that and lightly tapped her knee as if everything made sense. "Ah, I knew it. Oh, yeah, of course. The editorial team is already working on it. Your fan club is officially in the process of being launched." "What? Seriously? I mean, it feels too over the top for me." As I struggled to hide my confusion, Lena abruptly dropped a stack of papers onto the desk and turned toward me. "Honestly, you don't understand your own value at all. You know you're more than just a great pianist, right?" Crossing her arms, she started listing things off. "Let's see. First, you type fast, and your work is always accurate. You always step in when someone needs help. Plus, despite your incredible career, you never act arrogant. You're humble, and your smile is unfairly cute, like a puppy. Honestly, it's almost criminal how oblivious you are." Lena, usually composed, seemed to be speaking entirely on impulse. Hearing her words, I felt an undeniable sense of embarrassment creeping in. The sincerity in her praise was almost overwhelming, and I could feel my face heating up. Getting complimented this much is kind of embarrassing. She had been rattling off reasons without hesitation, but now she suddenly trailed off. It seemed as if the embarrassment was catching up with her after saying it herself. She averted her gaze, and I could see a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "I mean, what I'm trying to say is, you should have more confidence in yourself. Even if you weren't a pianist, just being you is." Before she could finish, I instinctively took her hand. "What are you doing all of a sudden?" "Sorry. It's just hearing you say all that made me really happy. And also, you blushing like this is kind of adorable." As soon as I said that, Lena turned even redder and pouted. "Ugh, idiot. Just so you know, I'm your first fan. No matter what happens, I'll always support you, so stop worrying about pointless things." I chuckled at her words and gave a small nod. "Thanks, Lena. Then I'll work even harder so I don't let my #1 fan down." As I said that, she let out a soft laugh, and before we knew it, our lips met. No matter how many times life falls apart, I'm not alone. Just having someone by my side gives me the courage to take another step forward. Even with pressure and past failures weighing me down, as long as there's someone who truly believes in me, I can always rise again. We just need to keep moving forward, hand in hand. Because there, a new melody will always be waiting. This is the proof that you committed fraud. My talented junior, Hannah, had fallen into a trap set by our boss, Austin, and was about to be kicked out of the company. When I found out, I barged into their meeting. With a loud thud, Austin threw some documents onto the table. They were papers accusing Hannah of fraud. "That's not true. I didn't do anything. If you admit it, I won't report it to the company. You can either get fired or leave on your own. It's your choice." Hannah's face turned pale. I had been silently listening to the whole exchange, but I had finally reached my limit. Ha ha. Ha. What the hell is so funny? I couldn't stop laughing. Because this was the moment my 5-year-long revenge was about to begin. My name is Isaac, 35 years old. I work at a trading company that deals in imported goods. Dream Trading is a well-known, long-established company. Did we get an email from the client? Oh. Yes, I just got it. I'll forward it right away. You can't tell what language it's in? Hand it over, I'll take care of it. Phones ringing non-stop. Employees running back and forth in a frenzy. Shouts echoing through the office in English, Italian, and... Well, in short, the sales department is the busiest in the company. And in the midst of all that... Yawn. Whoops. Another big yawn today, Isaac? Yeah, the weather's just too nice, makes me sleepy. Sitting alone in the corner of the office, I bask in the warm sunlight streaming through the window. Hannah spots me and shoots me a sharp look, as if to say, how can you be slacking off at a time like this? I'm so bored. Oh. Well, I have the perfect way for you to kill time. Really? Yes. Work. With a thud, Hannah dropped a thick stack of documents onto my desk. You're supposed to organize these by date. And once you're done, clean the break room. Ugh, again? Everyone's way too messy in there. Everyone is busy. You're the only one in the sales department who has time for cleaning. Ha ha. You're sharp as ever, Hannah. As the ever-idle employee, I am what you'd call a window seat employee. Someone who barely does any work and is completely off the career advancement track. With no motivation or future prospects, even junior colleagues don't take me seriously. That's who I am now. Hannah, you look busy as always. And whose fault do you think that is? Every single day, I have to walk all the way to this far-off corner of the office. Hannah. Yes. I'll be right there. Called by another employee, Hannah quickly rushed off. I couldn't help but feel bad for her. As a newcomer whose main job was assisting senior employees, she had also been stuck with the task of delivering work and messages to me. I know I'm a window seat employee, but did they really have to put my desk right next to the actual window? Yawn. Wrapped in the gentle autumn sunlight, I felt my consciousness slipping away. The chaotic office noise, once you get used to it, almost serves as pleasant background music. Pushing the stack of documents aside, I lay my head down on the desk. Are you seriously still sleeping? It's already past noon. An unfamiliar scent tickled my nose, slowly pulling me back to reality. At some point, the office had gone completely silent, and everyone had disappeared. Everyone except for the person standing beside me, peering down. Did you change your shampoo, Hannah? I didn't. And that's the first thing you say after waking up? You really are hopeless. The way she spoke made it obvious she no longer saw me as a senior colleague. Hannah joined the company about a year ago, which means she's 12 years younger than me. Sometimes, I forget which one of us is the senior here. Are you saying I look old? Depending on your answer, I might have to report this to HR. No. I mean, you're really put together. Good. As long as that's what you meant. She let out a sigh, one hand on her hip. That kind of gesture might seem exaggerated on anyone else, but on Hannah, it looked perfectly natural. When she first joined, she caused quite a stir across departments. She had an overall striking appearance. Hannah, by the way, how tall are you again? I'm about 5 feet 7 inches, though. And you went to S. Women's University, right? Did you ever get any nicknames there? Well, for some reason, my juniors used to call me Miss. Why do you ask? Haha, I knew it. Her short hair was neatly trimmed just below her ears. Her sharp facial features, bold eyebrows. and tall, model-like figure. She had the aura of someone who, in an all-girls school, would undoubtedly be nicknamed the Prince. Anyway, Isaac, can't you try putting in a little more effort? To be honest, I used to think all trading company employees were like Austin. Disappointed? That this is your senior? To be blunt, yes. Ha ha. I like that about you. Her ability to speak her mind was one of her best traits. That being said, I really didn't appreciate being compared to him. Even if she admired Austin. Austin, huh? Well, I'll admit, even as a guy, I can see why people think he's handsome. It's not about looks. I respect him for his skills as a businessman. After all, Austin is the legendary salesman. There's no comparison between you and him. Puffing out her chest with pride, she looked as if she had accomplished something herself. Austin, the leader of the sales department, and I now stand worlds apart in both status and reputation. But it wasn't always like this. At first, he was just a senior colleague who had joined the company 3 years before me. You probably forgot, but I am a section chief, you know? Yeah, but you're the section chief of the Special Sales Support Division. A department with only one member, no assigned office. And literally a dead-end position. That's hardly something to brag about. She shut me down before I could even argue. I admitted defeat without resistance. Yep, you're absolutely right. The so-called Dream Trading's Exile Department. Originally, it was created as a cushy post for senior executives nearing retirement, giving them a place to pass their remaining workdays in peace. But now, it had become the boogeyman of the sales department. If the higher-ups decided you were useless, this was the first place you'd be sent. And that exile department, tucked away in the corner of the sales office, was where I served as the glorified section chief. Isaac, do you have no pride? Don't you want to claw your way back up? Aren't you at least a little frustrated that everyone looks down on you? La la la, I can't hear you. Don't ignore reality. Kenneth, say something to him. Ha! Just as he returned from lunch, the person she called out to walked over. It was my friend and colleague, Kenneth. Yo, Isaac. Getting chewed out by Hannah again? Perfect timing, man. Save me. My junior's so terrifying I want to go home early. There. Isaac's got a fragile heart, you know? Ugh, whatever. Hannah, clearly exasperated, clicked her heels sharply against the floor and stomped away in frustration. She really gives you a hard time, huh? She's just strict on herself and others. She's a good kid, huh? That's when I noticed it. A document sitting on my desk that hadn't been there in the morning. New work? Damn, today's busier than usual. No, this is something else, Isaac. Kenneth flipped through the pages, stopping abruptly on one. Then, he pointed at a specific section. Look here. Oh, this is bad. We exchanged glances and immediately knew we were on the same page. I'll leave this to you. But it's almost time, isn't it? Kenneth. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. At that moment, my days as the window seat employee were about to come to an end. I think you should rewrite this proposal. Later that afternoon, once most of our colleagues had left for meetings or negotiations, I waited until Hannah was alone before approaching her with the document she had forgotten. Even from afar, she had been restless the whole time. When she saw the documents in my hand, she suddenly exclaimed, "Oh, that. You forgot this. You know, you really shouldn't be leaving things on my desk. I might accidentally throw them away. With you, that actually sounds possible. I mean, thank you. I was looking for it." She was probably finally free from her worries. With a look of relief, Hannah gave me a slight nod of gratitude. Be more careful next time. More importantly, the real reason I went out of my way to come here, something I never do. just as I was about to bring it up. Got some business with her, Isaac? Ugh. Of all people, the last person I wanted to run into had just returned. Ha ha. Austin. Wow, long time no see. Yeah, it has been a while, Isaac. Even though we work in the same office, funny, isn't it? Yeah. Austin, the leader of the sales department. With his actor-like good looks and magnetic charisma, he was wildly popular among the female employees. He was always composed, known for his impeccable manners and reputation as a model businessman, but right now, his smirk was laced with something far less noble. Did you finish organizing the files I asked for? Yeah, you can check them whenever you'd like. Oh, don't worry about that. Just put them back in the original folders. I'll review them when I get some free time. It means that day will never come. Also, he might add, unlike you, I'm busy, and thanks for wasting your time on meaningless work. When it came to deciphering Austin's subtle jabs, I was practically fluent. By the way, Hannah, is the proposal for tea confectionery finished? Yes, Austin. But she cast a hesitant glance my way. She probably wanted to say something but held back in front of Austin. I decided to throw her a lifeline. Austin, as her senior, may I offer her some advice? There's something in the proposal that concerns me. Isaac, is that you? He concealed his true thoughts. Why is someone like you stuck in the corner here? But didn't forget to sprinkle in some sarcasm. As always, his ability to lace words with condescension was truly masterful. No need to worry. Guiding her is my responsibility as her direct superior. No need to trouble yourself, section chief of another department. Hannah, let me see the proposal. Oh, this is excellent. As expected, you're brilliant. With this, securing a deal with tea confectionery is a sure thing. Really? Beaming from ear to ear, Hannah soaked up his praise. With that, any advice I had to offer would now fall on deaf ears. I decided to wait for another chance. Well then, I'll be off. Good luck, Hannah. Thanks for your hard work, Isaac. Oh, and make sure to work hard on cleaning the break room. Ah. As I walked away, I noticed Hannah hesitating, glancing between Austin and me. After a quick sideways glance, I was convinced that she would be just fine. And soon, my intuition would prove to be correct. 30 minutes later, she showed up at the break room, where I was cleaning. I just can't shake it. What exactly was wrong with my proposal? You really are sharp. Even sharper than Austin gives you credit for. Ha! She blinked in confusion as I handed her a small note. 2 weeks later, the sales department erupted with big news. A rookie, handling her very first business negotiation, had secured a $10 million contract. I thought I wouldn't be able to do it at first. But Austin encouraged me, saying I could handle it. It's all thanks to him for believing in me and giving me this opportunity. Ha ha. No. I knew I wasn't wrong about you. I'm relieved. Everyone, let's give a round of applause to our outstanding Hannah. At Austin's cue, the entire office burst into applause and cheers. Hannah, beaming, blushed as he draped an arm around her shoulder. So, the proposal worked out. Good. Lounging at my desk, basking in the sunlight, I gave her a silent round of applause. Oh, and one more thing, I had exceptionally good eyesight. Which is why I saw Austin, in the middle of all the celebration, briefly turn away from the crowd and click his tongue in frustration. Isaac. Oh, Hannah, you shouldn't do that. Even if it was just mouthing my name or waving at me. I pretended not to see her and fully committed to my afternoon nap. That evening, for the first time in my life, I was invited out for drinks by a woman. What? No way, I'm heading home. Old guys like me need to sleep early, or tomorrow's gonna be rough. You always sleep. Kenneth, help me convince him. Come on, it's fine for once. Today's a celebration for Hannah. You too, Kenneth. Traitor. When did these two get so chummy? Before I could figure it out, I had been forcibly recruited. With both of them dragging me along, we ended up at the bar Kenneth and I frequented. Cheers to Hannah for landing a huge contract. Thank you. Kenneth led the toast, and the drinking party officially began. It didn't take long for Hannah's face to turn red. She probably wasn't much of a drinker. Isaac, who exactly are you? Huh? Me? If I had followed Austin's instructions. If I hadn't listened to you. I probably would have failed, right? Well, she was absolutely right. The proposal had been well prepared except for one critical flaw. Nuts. Mr. Turner of Tea Confectionery hates nuts. So that memo was right after all. Hate is putting it lightly, he despises them. Right, Kenneth? Yeah. I felt chills when I saw American peanuts listed as a suggested product. It's that serious. Let me break it down. First of all, Mr. Turner's grandson has a severe nut allergy. The man adored his grandson. So much so that he refused to eat nuts at home, in public, or even allow them anywhere near his company's products. His firm didn't use nuts, and employees weren't even allowed to bring them into the building. If Hannah had submitted the proposal Austin approved, not only would the deal have fallen through, but we might have lost one of our biggest clients altogether. That's... Hannah's buzz instantly vanished. Kenneth tilted his head in confusion. Any company that does business with tea confectionery knows this. Austin didn't mention it? No, he didn't. Ah. Kenneth and I exchanged glances, thinking, just as we expected. He must have just overlooked it, right? Anyway, thank you, Isaac. I got the contract thanks to you. Kenneth and I became silent. What's wrong, Isaac? You too, Kenneth? She looked between us, confused. But we were the ones who should be confused. You're really okay with this, Hannah? Ha! Let me be blunt, Austin's doing something to you, isn't he? What? Her eyes immediately darted away. She didn't want to admit it, but she knew exactly what we were talking about. That was the face of someone who had a very clear idea. What do you mean? Nothing's happening. Why are you asking this all of a sudden? Are you sure, Hannah? Yes. It's just that, sometimes, I feel like he gets a little too close. He sits next to me in the break room. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but... Since you admire Austin, does it feel more like an honor than a problem? She didn't say anything. It was a cruel question, even by my standards. But it hit home. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. I don't like it. I really want him to stop. You did well saying that. I'm proud of you, Hannah. I was wondering what that scent was, but Hannah, you smell like Austin's cologne. That means he's been way too close. That's not normal between a boss and his subordinate, is it? No, it's not. Do you want to report him to the company? That's... She hesitated. Deep down, she still respected Austin. Hannah shook her head at my question. I see. But as your senior, here's my advice, never handle this alone. If something happens, it'll be too late to regret it later. Okay. By the way, did my last piece of advice help? Huh? Oh, absolutely. It made all the difference. Thank you so much. Good. Then, I'll take my payment for that advice. What? There's something I want you to help me with. The serious look on my face made Hannah's eyes widen as she held her breath. Isaac, who are you, really? Over the next month, Hannah's momentum only grew. She secured several major contracts. She also continued opening new accounts, keeping her name at the top of the performance rankings. No one could stop her. Despite being the newest member of the sales team, she ended up winning top sales of the month. Man, she's on fire. Austin, you must be proud to have such an outstanding subordinate. Oh, yeah. She might even be the next head of the sales department. Ha ha. Don't say things you don't mean, Austin. Watching him struggle to keep up his usual smug front, I let out a quiet, dry chuckle. For 5 years, Austin had held the top spot in sales. And now, a rookie who hadn't even been here for a year had snatched it right out from under him. You'll regret this. Austin's muttered words, accompanied by a sharp TSK, didn't escape my notice. Ha, better than I imagined. I didn't expect Hannah to pull this off so spectacularly. Considering all the grief Austin had given me, there was no way seeing that look on his face wouldn't be satisfying. And it was all thanks to Hannah's hard work. To reward her for this grueling month and to ensure she kept pushing forward, I headed to our usual break room. Hey, Hannah. Great job. So, what do you think of Isaac, Hannah? That's a little. Haha, right? Don't tell Isaac, okay, Kenneth? I stopped at the entrance and instinctively stepped behind the doorframe. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but for some reason, I found it hard to step in. There was something almost sacred about the atmosphere between them. It felt like I shouldn't intrude. Ha ha. Hannah giggled softly, probably at some joke Kenneth had made. Yeah. They look good together. At 5 feet 11 inches, Kenneth looks well-matched standing next to her. Being the considerate type, I quietly turned away from the scene and left. After that day, I found myself avoiding Hannah. Whenever I sensed her approaching my desk, I'd pretend to be asleep. Not that it mattered much, she was so busy now that she barely had time to come over anyway. There were even days when we didn't talk at all. Then, one day, Isaac. I need to talk to you. It was lunchtime, and the office was empty. Hannah suddenly approached me, her expression serious. Oh, congratulations? Ha? Isn't this about you and Kenneth finally? Why would Kenneth have anything to do with this? No. Oh. I see. Oddly enough, I felt relieved. But that feeling was immediately overshadowed. Because Hannah's face had turned deathly pale, and her voice was shaking. I think I'm going to have to quit the company. What? It's not true. I didn't do anything. Covering her face with both hands, she collapsed into sobs. Quit and not true, those words alone were enough for me to piece things together. I placed a hand on her shoulder and gently lifted her face. You don't have to say it. I already know. It's Austin, isn't it? She gasped, her breath hitching. Then, wiping her tears, she choked out the truth. He's saying I was giving unfair advantages to clients. That there's no way I could have landed so many contracts in such a short time without cheating. Austin himself told me it was all thanks to my effort before, but now, suddenly. That morning, Austin had summoned her to a separate room. Out of nowhere, he had pressured her to resign. A certain client has privately accused you of proposing unethical deals. If you resign on your own, I won't report it to the company. If this gets out, I'll be held responsible as well. The company's reputation will suffer. A lot of people will be affected. But if you want to be selfish and drag everyone down with you, feel free to stay. The last part was practically a threat. I didn't do anything wrong. Even if you don't believe me. But Austin, he has evidence. I believe you. Without hesitation, I met her gaze and said it firmly. Relieved, Hannah's eyes welled up with tears once again. The sight made my chest tighten. Because part of this was my fault. I'm sorry, Hannah. But I promise I won't let you quit. Isaac. Immediately, I contacted Kenneth. He was already prepared. Everything was set, all that was left was execution. As expected of my best friend. Time for payback. Let's settle this 5-year grudge, once and for all. A few days later. Austin, can I have a moment of your time? I stopped him in the hallway. He turned, visibly irritated. He didn't even have the composure to fake his usual charismatic smile. He was cornered. I'm busy right now. Can't this wait, Hannah? It's about my resignation. The moment she said that, Austin's expression immediately brightened. Ah, I see. You've made your decision. Let's talk in a private room. I smoothly pulled Hannah away from Austin, who tried to put his arm around her like it was the most natural thing. Oh, and Isaac, why exactly are you here? Come on now, no need to be so stiff. I'm not exactly uninvolved in this, after all. Ha! Taking advantage of Austin's confusion, I smoothly followed along. Once we stepped into the nearby meeting room, I wasted no time getting to the point. Hannah is innocent. This whole accusation, it's just a misunderstanding on your part, isn't it, Austin? What? Did you tell him everything, Hannah? Yes. I see. Austin let out an exaggerated sigh, making Hannah flinch. Don't worry, there's no need to be scared of a guy like that. I gave her a reassuring smile before stepping forward. You said you had evidence. That there was testimony from a client claiming she engaged in misconduct. That's right. And it's not just testimony. There have been discrepancies in expense reports for some time now. It's unfortunate, but I believe Hannah has been bribing clients. That's ridiculous. I never. It's unfortunate, but this is the proof. With a dramatic flourish, Austin tossed a stack of documents onto the table. The papers were filled with numbers and statements seemingly confirming her misconduct. On the front page, bold letters read, "Investigation report on Hannah's fraudulent activities." What? Hannah's face turned ghostly pale as she clamped a hand over her mouth. Seeing her reaction, Austin went in for the kill. It's disappointing, really. I had such high hopes for you. But I understand. Once you taste success, it's hard to let go. I sympathize, truly. But that doesn't mean I can overlook fraud. No. This isn't right, Hannah. Paying bribes to secure contracts? Embezzling company funds? Even I can't protect you this time. Now, what will you do? Get exposed and face termination? Or resign quietly? Or would you prefer to be demoted and have your desk moved to the window seat? He sneered. I'm letting you choose your fate. I had been silent the whole time, letting him dig his own grave. But now, seeing him out of breath from his own performance, I had finally reached my limit. Ha 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 ha. Ha. Isaac? Sorry. I couldn't hold it in. Ha ha. Hannah stared at me, wide-eyed, as I suddenly burst into laughter. Clutching my stomach from laughing too hard, I apologized to Austin again. My bad. It's just too familiar. What the hell are you talking about? You really don't remember? 5 years ago, Austin, you said the exact same thing to me. Oh. Austin visibly tensed. Looks like he finally remembered. He finally recalled what he had done to me 5 years ago. And not just the words, even the methods are the same. Damn, I haven't laughed this hard in ages. Isaac, what do you mean? Oh, right. I never told you, did I, Hannah? This guy is the reason I became a window seat employee. What? That's right, isn't it, legendary salesman? Isaac, you bastard. So it really had been 5 years, huh? The weight of time settled in as I let my mind drift back. Well done, Isaac. You're the top salesperson again this month. Thank you, Austin. This was back when Austin was still just a regular employee. And when I was still a respected member of the sales department. At the time, I was on top of the world. Damn it! Isaac again? We just can't compete with him. Guess that's what you get when you hire an elite from T University. I ignored the half-jealous remarks from my peers, too caught up in my own streak. I kept breaking records, achieving the highest sales in company history again and again. My confidence soared. I never saw the trap waiting just ahead. Isaac, I'm sorry, but we have proof that you engaged in fraud. Austin dropped the bombshell right after our department head, Tom, retired. My mind went completely blank. Of course, I had assumed I would be the next department head. That's impossible. I haven't done anything wrong. This is the proof. I'm submitting this report to the company. No. I get it, I do. Once you achieve great success, it's hard to let go. But that doesn't mean fraud is excusable, right? Isaac, this isn't right. Bribing clients just to maintain your numbers? And worse, embezzling company funds? Even I can't cover for you anymore. I had high hopes for you, but at least I'll let you choose, be exposed and get fired, or resign on your own. What's it going to be? I made my choice. And as you can see, I'm still here. I couldn't bring myself to resign. Austin kept his word and submitted the report to the company. However, the evidence wasn't strong enough to justify immediate termination. Yet, I couldn't fully prove my innocence either. My contributions to the company also couldn't be ignored. Caught in a dilemma, upper management reached a decision. They demoted me, exiling me to the Special Sales Support Division, a glorified punishment post. And Austin? He took over all of my clients and accounts. Using my downfall as a stepping stone, he fast-tracked his way up the corporate ladder. Even the title of legendary salesman, which had once been mine, was stolen by him. I knew from the start that you fabricated the charges against me. But I couldn't prove it. All I could do was insist that I hadn't done anything wrong. TCH. And where's your proof now? Stop making baseless accusations. You were right about one thing, Austin. I didn't quit because I couldn't let go of my success. But that wasn't the only reason. While everyone laughed at me, calling me a lost cause, there was one person who didn't. The colleague I had always seen as my rival, my competition for promotion, told me, "Don't quit." That person was Kenneth. Don't quit, Isaac. Austin's going to slip up eventually. Just wait it out, Isaac. Eventually? When? Just leave me alone, man. No. I want to change this company with you. Ha! I stared at him, completely dumbfounded. Then, Kenneth grabbed my shoulder, his grip firm. With even more passion, he continued. This company is old-fashioned. It's stuck in the past. Look at Austin, just because he has connections higher up, he gets to rewrite reality. It's messed up, isn't it? You contributed more than anyone. But they erased everything with some fabricated evidence. That's the kind of place we work for. Kenneth. You believe me? That it was all made up? That I didn't do anything? Of course. As if to say, so what? Kenneth's words hit me straight in the heart. So much that I nearly teared up. Kenneth. You were always this passionate? Doesn't really match your usual personality. I just pretended to be cool. I tried to copy your composed attitude. Because, Isaac, you were my role model. What? So don't disappoint me. You're the legendary salesman, remember? Kenneth's words saved me. So this time, I'll be the one to do the same. You can't quit, Hannah. Don't take the blame for something you didn't do. Don't throw away everything you've worked so hard for. Isaac. Hannah's remarkable rise was actually masterminded by Kenneth and me. We gave her all the guidance we could, ensuring she delivered standout results. We knew that if she rose too quickly, Austin would panic and expose himself. Sure, we used her, but the rest was up to her effort. Even we hadn't expected her to perform that well. Austin, you recently had a matchmaking meeting with the executive director's daughter, didn't you? How'd that go? What? That's none of your damn business. Oh, so it did go well. No wonder you couldn't afford to let a newbie steal your top spot. Was that why you tried to sabotage the tea confectionery deal? So you could swoop in and take credit? 5 years ago, he did it to climb the ranks. This time, he did it to secure a connection to upper management. Twice now, Austin had framed people who stood in his way. You don't understand anything. You always had everything handed to you. You went to a top university and just naturally ended up at the top. But I had nothing. I was dirt poor. I had to work nonstop just to save up for tuition. And even then, the best I could get into was a third-rate university. So I had to work my ass off in this company to climb my way out of the bottom. What's wrong with that? If that's what you call effort, then we have different definitions. What? The real way to climb isn't by pushing others down. It's by sharpening your own skills. Over and over, until you're on the verge of breaking. It's painful. But I didn't want to lose either. That's why I endured. And that's why, in the end, I didn't lose to you. Austin glared at me, hatred burning in his eyes. Then, he muttered, "Where's your proof? Show me actual evidence that I framed you." I'm not admitting to anything. Ha ha. That's the Austin I know. Here, you asked for proof, right? With a heavy thud, I dropped a mountain of documents in front of him. 5 years of work. The sheer volume alone was overwhelming. Austin had seen me carrying these files, but he never imagined they were his crimes being compiled. I had played the worthless window seat employee for years just to make him lower his guard. Kenneth and I had been waiting for this exact moment. What? Bribes, embezzlement, obstruction of subordinates, you name it. And don't bother trying to destroy these. The data has already been sent to the president. No. No. Where's your proof that this proof is real? What if you fabricated all of it? Man, talk about being desperate. Just as I sighed at his pathetic resistance, the meeting room door swung open. Here's some extra proof. We finally got testimony from a client who accepted Austin's bribes. Kenneth. Give it up, Austin. Even they admitted it. There's no getting out of this. Shut up. It's not over yet. Oh, come on. Even now, he was still struggling? Kenneth and I exchanged glances. But before we could respond, Hannah stepped forward. I have more. What else could there possibly be? A record of your inappropriate behavior toward female employees. There had always been rumors about Austin, about how he got too close to women in the office. But because the company had few female employees and Austin had a polished public image, no one had ever come forward. So we had asked Hannah to gather testimonies. As a woman herself, she had a better chance of getting others to speak up. And I'm one of the witnesses. Don't even think about saying it wasn't that bad, because every single time I smelled your cologne, I felt sick remembering how you touched me. But you laughed. If you didn't like it, you should've. You were in a position of power. Did you seriously believe every woman smiled at you because they liked you? Sorry to break it to you, but you've been living in a fantasy. And just so we're clear, Hannah, that's enough. You're neither as young nor as handsome as you think you are. Okay, that's enough. I had been through it before. Hannah's verbal attacks were brutal. Austin, completely defeated, trembled as he hid behind the very documents that condemned him. And with that, my 5-year-long revenge was complete. After that, the overwhelming evidence we submitted was fully acknowledged by the higher-ups. That became the decisive blow, and Austin was officially dismissed. His arranged marriage was also called off, and as for what he's doing now, who knows? That said, he was originally a hardworking and ambitious person. If he reflects on his actions and finds the will to rise again, I have a feeling he'll claw his way back up, no matter how low he's fallen. As for me, right after Austin left the company, thanks to a direct decision from our president, Mr. Nelson, I was reinstated in the sales department. The Special Sales Support Division was officially disbanded. This personnel change was largely influenced by Kenneth's appeal to Mr. Nelson. A talented employee is stuck in the shadows, constantly facing unfair treatment. Isn't that irrational? Isn't that a loss for the company? Please, Mr. Nelson, pay attention to your employees. Talented people should be recognized. And those who have both skill and dedication should be rewarded even more. Isaac is someone who deserves to be valued. Mr. Nelson, who had left the field entirely in the hands of upper management, finally turned his attention to the workplace after hearing Kenneth's words. He reassessed my performance and gave me the opportunity to shine again. And the fact that I later reclaimed the top sales record was proof enough that his decision had been the right one. Cheers! Tonight, we're celebrating Isaac's return. It's on me, so drink up, no holding back. You too, Hannah. Yes. Congratulations, Isaac. Thanks, Kenneth, Hannah. And Kenneth, before you get too drunk, let me say this: thank you for stopping me back then, for supporting me through these past 5 years, and for bringing me back to the sales team. With all my gratitude, I expressed my thanks to Kenneth. Hey, remember? Back when we first joined, I had better sales numbers than you. Huh? Oh yeah, that's right. You shot straight to the top, overtaking all the senior employees. I was so sure I was an elite. I thought I was on the fast track to promotion, never once looking around. Never even considering that people might resent me for it. Despite his outstanding performance, Kenneth's promotions kept getting delayed. Turns out, his boss at the time had deliberately sabotaged his evaluations out of jealousy. I had never known the truth until now. That's why I saw myself in you, Isaac. You had talent, you got results, and because of that, some cowardly bastard resented you. It was just like what happened to me. I couldn't stand by and do nothing. I'm going to rise up. I want to change this company so that the people who deserve recognition actually get it. And that includes you, Isaac. Wait, me too? You got this, Isaac. Oh, and of course, you too, Kenneth. Woohoo! Already drunk and red-faced, Hannah beamed as she clinked glasses with Kenneth again. Seeing them like that, something clicked in my mind. These two were all ready. Kenneth, make sure you take Hannah home properly. Huh? Why me? If anything, that's your job. Wait, aren't you two dating? What? I told Kenneth about what I had seen in the break room. How the two of them had been having a deep conversation. To me, it only made sense that they had feelings for each other. Oh, haha. No. That was just her asking for advice, about you. Advice? Come on, Hannah, tell him properly. Encouraged by Kenneth, Hannah looked at me with hazy eyes. The person I really like is you, Isaac. I just couldn't say it. I was too embarrassed. What? Seeing her smile shyly, for the first time, I thought she looked adorable. Even if you have talent, even if you put in immense effort, recognition is never guaranteed in this world. But giving up because of that would be a waste. If you don't give up, a path might open up somewhere down the line. And maybe, just maybe, someone nearby has been recognizing your efforts all along. I want to build a company with my best friend, one where hard work is properly valued. For that, I'll keep pushing myself even harder. Ah! Someone, please come quickly. A sudden scream echoed through the cabin of the plane as it approached landing. What's going on? The passengers murmured in alarm as a flight attendant raised her voice. Is there a doctor on board? Yes, I'm here. The one who responded and raised his hand was me, a doctor on the verge of losing my job due to my boss's scheme. This is bad. As I checked the condition of the ill passenger, I realized it was a critical emergency. Without hesitation, I began administering emergency treatment. However, I'm sorry, but this person is already. One doctor after another began voicing their resignation. Even so, I refused to give up. I will save you. Please, come back. Pouring every ounce of my will into my actions, I kept my hands moving. And this decision would soon send shockwaves through my life. Mickey Oaks, correct? May we have a word with you? 2 detectives had come to the airport to take me in. My name is Mickey Oaks, 35 years old. I'm a neurosurgeon at a major hospital in New York City. Every day, I dedicate myself to saving as many patients as possible from illness and injury. And I thought that life would continue as it always had. Mickey, why don't you take some time off? One day, I was suddenly called into the director's office. Waiting for me there was my boss, the head of surgery, Mitchell, and his father, Mr. Cage, the hospital director. Take time off. Not understanding, I tilted my head in confusion. Mitchell let out a scoffing laugh. You don't get it? Fine, I'll spell it out for you. We don't want you coming to the hospital for a while. What? Stunned, I instinctively looked to Mr. Cage for help. But he kept his eyes on the documents on his desk, as if he hadn't heard a word of our conversation. There's no way he didn't know how much I had dedicated myself to my patients and the hospital. Of course, my father has already agreed. You've been doing back-to-back surgeries lately, haven't you? Just take this as a chance to rest up. But what about my patients? The surgeries I have scheduled. Mitchell's expression suddenly darkened. You think the department can't function without you? Don't get cocky. You're just a regular doctor, nothing more. Just because people call you a genius surgeon. I fell silent. A genius surgeon. That was a title I had earned through relentless effort. I had successfully performed numerous difficult surgeries and saved patients that others had given up on. As a result, patients from far and wide came to me, saying, Dr. Oaks is our only hope. Rumors even circulated in the hospital that I might skip the position of head surgeon and go straight to becoming the next hospital director. And the one who despised me for it, because he had always believed he was the rightful successor, was Mitchell. I've had enough of that attitude of yours. Take this as a chance to reflect. You've been spoiled with that genius label and become insufferably arrogant. Seizing the opportunity, Mitchell lashed out at me, his eyes burning with hostility. At that moment, Mr. Cage finally spoke. That's enough, Mitchell. You're being disgraceful. Father. I'm sorry. Mickey, do you truly have no idea why this is happening? Mr. Cage raised his gaze and fixed me with a stern look. Caught off guard, I hesitated, then slowly shook my head. I finally learned the reason I was being driven out of the hospital. Your brother. What? You have a younger brother, don't you? A young man I've often seen walking near the hospital with you. His name, if I recall correctly, is Danny? Why? Why was Danny's name coming up here? The question was so shocking that I couldn't even put it into words. As I stood there, dumbfounded, Mr. Cage delivered an even harsher truth. We've received complaints from patients and people in the neighborhood. They say a doctor working at this hospital was seen walking around with a rough-looking man who resembled a mafia member. Some have even started questioning whether this hospital has ties to criminal organizations. No, wait, please, my brother is. Until this blows over, we need you to stay away from the hospital. You have a mafia-affiliated brother who keeps showing up here. You'll be a nuisance. That final statement hit me like a blow to the head. Beside Mr. Cage, Mitchell grinned, looking smug. I could tell he was saying something to mock me, but I was too overwhelmed to process it. The only thought that consumed my mind was, I can never let Danny find out about this. Get me a drink. Now, you useless brat. My childhood was filled with my father's drunken yelling. After losing my mother right after she gave birth to Danny, my father drowned himself in alcohol. Of course, he couldn't hold a job for long, and we were always dirt poor. If only you weren't here. It's your fault we're miserable, you damn curse. Stop it. Danny did nothing wrong. Come on, let's go outside, Danny. Mickey. Whenever my father lashed out at my little brother, I was the one who protected him. We received some government support, but I took on all the household chores, worked part-time to support our family, and studied until dawn every day. I never made friends, I was too focused on escaping poverty. And because I had a dream. A doctor? You think you can become a doctor? Ha! Don't be stupid. I will. I will become a doctor. And I'll save people like Mom. No matter how much my father mocked me or how often people laughed, saying, a poor kid like you could never be a doctor, I never gave up. Eventually, my academic performance earned me a full scholarship to medical school. Between my grueling studies, I worked multiple jobs to cover my living expenses and send money home. Whenever I visited, exhausted beyond belief, Danny would always say, one day, I'll take care of you, Mickey. I'll work my ass off, save up a ton of money, and build you a massive house. Ha ha. I'll be looking forward to that. But you'll have to study harder first. Ugh. I hate studying. Ha ha. Even though I had left him behind with our abusive father, Danny was always waiting for me with a smile. He wasn't the best at studying, but he was incredibly athletic and had a bright, energetic personality. After finally becoming a doctor despite all the hardships, my next goal was to help Danny grow into a respectable adult. And yet, hey, where do you think you're going? A firm grip on my shoulders snapped me back to reality. I barely remembered finishing my shift and heading toward the hospital exit. My mind had been so clouded that I hadn't even noticed bumping into someone until they called me out on it. What the hell, man? Watch where you're walking. A tall, broad-shouldered young man with a muscular build loomed over me, narrowing his sharp, piercing eyes like a blade. Dressed in a sleek, expensive suit, with a luxury watch peeking from his sleeve, one that could easily buy a high-end car. You're always decked out like you're ready for battle. If I had said that to an actual mafia member, I probably would have been punched on the spot. But instead, the man in front of me grinned. Unlike you, Mickey, I actually work out. Makes me look good, huh? Saying that, the man, my younger brother, Danny, grabbed my work bag from me. Rough day, huh? You didn't even notice me standing here. Just how hard was your shift today? Yeah, sorry. I was just lost in thought. You have a mafia-affiliated brother who keeps showing up here, you'll be a nuisance. Mr. Cage's words resurfaced in my mind, fueling my anger all over again. Danny had an intimidating look, sure, but he wasn't in the mafia. Not even close. Danny was. You're working hard too. I muttered without thinking, and Danny must have picked up on something in my tone because his expression softened. his eyebrows drooping as he let out a small, wry smile. Someone said something about me, didn't they? What? Yeah, it figures. I'm always causing trouble for you, aren't I? Sorry, man. That's not. He's not the one at fault. But Danny just shook his head sadly. If you mess up once, people don't let you live it down. I'm really feeling that now. And well, I guess my looks don't help either. Your looks have nothing to do with it. You're a good person, Danny. Ha, thanks. That's why I respect you more than anyone, Mickey. I didn't say anything. How could someone who says things like that be a bad person? I wanted to drag Mr. Cage, Mitchell, and whoever filed that complaint to the hospital right now and make them hear this for themselves. Danny is a good guy. He just had a tough-looking face and got misunderstood a lot. And back in high school, he was just going through a rough patch. High school? Nah, I didn't go to that crap. What a joke. 10 years ago. When I rushed to the hospital after hearing that my father was in critical condition due to end-stage liver cancer, what I found wasn't just my dying father. It was my 17-year-old brother, Danny, his hair unkempt, flashy accessories dangling from his neck and wrists, his entire appearance giving off a careless, rebellious vibe as he spat out those words. You didn't go. But I sent you money for tuition. Huh? Oh, that? Yeah, I used it to buy a bike. And, to hang out with my buddies. You're kidding me. He wasn't even trying to look remorseful, I wasn't even angry, just completely drained. Of course, I should have seen this coming. A childhood in poverty. A father who did nothing but hurl insults. A personality too gentle to fight back when classmates mocked him. It had all built up inside Danny, and eventually, it exploded. I'm dropping out. But keep sending me money, alright? I'll use it to make up for that bastard old man. You idiot! Right there, beside our unconscious father, I punched Danny with everything I had. I had been cutting back on my own living expenses to make ends meet, thinking of my brother's future. But I couldn't forgive Danny not because my sacrifices had been wasted, but because he was throwing away his future. What the hell, Mickey? Why didn't you tell me? Huh? I'm asking why you didn't say anything before it got this bad. I knew Danny's character best. He is not the kind of guy who bothers people for no reason and thinks nothing of it. So, tell me everything. The hardships, the pain, everything you've been holding in. Mickey. And from now on, let's live together. We'll figure out your future together. He was speechless. Tears started streaming down Danny's face, unstoppable. Not long after that, our father passed away. Danny dropped out of high school and came to live with me. For now, I'll work part-time and pay you back for the tuition money. Then we'll figure out what's next together. I swear. I'll start taking life seriously. The embarrassed way he said it, that was the Danny I knew before he went off the rails. Man, today's sight was rough. My boss, Mr. Carden, was in a terrible mood. Danny laughed, scratching his suntan cheek. 8 years ago, he started working at a construction site where Mr. Carden saw potential in him. He ended up getting hired as an apprentice carpenter. Now, he's a fully fledged carpenter who even manages job sites. We still live together, and on nights when I don't have a night shift, he waits for me outside the hospital. We'd walk home together, sharing stories about our day. That was our routine, but now, after next month's medical conference, you need to stay away from the hospital for a while. That was what they told me this afternoon. Even after explaining that Danny was just a carpenter, Mr. Cage and the others refused to listen. My suspension was already set in stone. Your birthday's coming up soon, huh? I've got a huge surprise planned. You're gonna be blown away. Unaware of anything, Danny beamed as he spoke. You were the only adult who ever really listened to me when I was a mess. You took care of me like a parent when we were kids. And you always protected me from Dad. I'll never forget that, you know? I might be dumb, but I remember the important stuff. Danny. That's why I want to pay you back from now on. Even if you ever lose your job, don't worry, I'll take care of you. I was speechless. His words caught me off guard, and I barely managed to keep my expression in check. Danny might be straightforward and a bit naive, but sometimes he was eerily perceptive. I quickly started walking ahead, so he wouldn't see my reaction. Isn't a surprise kind of ruined if you announce it beforehand? Ah, crap. Forget I said anything. I totally didn't plan anything yet. Yeah, got it. I could practically see him panicking behind me, and for the first time that day, I smiled a little. But deep down, I was drowning in anxiety. Mr. Cage and Mitchell were well connected, and their influence stretched across multiple hospitals. Even if I switched jobs, would I be able to keep working as a doctor? In the worst case, would I lose my career entirely? What do I do? I whispered the thought to myself, making sure Danny wouldn't hear. Time passed, and the day before my suspension finally arrived. After attending a medical conference in another city, I boarded a flight back to New York. No, back to reality was more accurate. I had never managed to tell Danny about my suspension. And the thought of facing him tonight weighed on me like a stone. If only something went wrong and this plane never landed. The thought was reckless, I knew, but it still crossed my mind. Meanwhile, the plane continued its steady course home. And then, less than an hour before landing, the cabin suddenly erupted into chaos. Ah! Somebody, help! Please! A scream rang out from the front of the economy class section. A flight attendant rushed over, calling out, "What happened?" as the passengers around us began murmuring in alarm. Is there some kind of trouble? Looks like it. I exchanged glances with the passenger next to me, then leaned into the aisle to get a better look toward the front. And then, is there a doctor on board? A young woman's voice rang out in desperation. The flight attendant who had rushed forward earlier was now scanning the cabin, calling out anxiously to the passengers. I'm a doctor. Almost reflexively, I raised my hand high. Then I'm a doctor too. Same here. One by one, hands shot up across the cabin. Surprised, I looked around more carefully and recognized the faces immediately. They were doctors who had attended the same medical conference just hours ago. By sheer coincidence, we were all on the same flight. So many of you. The flight attendant seemed momentarily stunned. I stepped forward, speaking on behalf of the group. What happened? Well, just come quickly. Before I could ask further, she grabbed my arm and pulled me into the commotion. And what I saw was, this is bad. The words slipped from my mouth instinctively. The situation was critical. Sir! Can you hear me? I patted his shoulder and called out at close range, but there was no response. The unconscious passenger, a middle-aged man in a suit, was completely unresponsive. His face was pale as a sheet, and his dress shirt was drenched in sweat. He suddenly clutched his chest like he was in pain. And then, he just lost consciousness. Hearing the accounts from the passengers around him, I immediately suspected a diagnosis. Cardiac surgery wasn't my specialty, but I had studied the basics in medical school. And I had seen enough patients in this exact condition at the hospital. This man was likely to be. Everyone, help me lay him down in the aisle. Also, where's his bag? Here. This one. The flight attendant hastily handed me a small handbag. I rummaged through it, and sure enough, I found a case of pills. Who here specializes in cardiac surgery? Me. One of the doctors stepped forward. I handed over the medication for confirmation. As expected, the man had a history of heart disease. With the help of the surrounding passengers, we carefully moved him into the aisle. I checked his breathing and pulse. Neither are detectable. We're starting CPR immediately. CPR. There's an AED on board, right? Get it, now. Yes. The flight attendant, still pale with shock, ran toward the back of the cabin. In the meantime, I started chest compressions immediately. The other doctors joined in, taking turns performing rescue breaths and compressions. Come on, come back. I've got the AED. Good. Everyone, step back. The flight attendant hurriedly handed over the AED, and I quickly placed the pads on the man's chest before delivering a shock. But his heart didn't restart. Come on, move, please. I continued alternating between rescue breaths, chest compressions, and AED shocks. But still, his heart wouldn't start. I pressed down on his chest with even more force, refusing to let go. And then, someone grabbed my shoulder from behind. I'm sorry, but this person is already. It was the cardiac surgeon who had identified himself earlier. As a specialist, he he understood the reality of the situation. This man couldn't be saved. The time limit hasn't passed yet. If we give up now, he definitely won't survive. I looked around at the other doctors, pleading with them. But one by one, they all shook their heads with heavy expressions. No way. We've done everything possible. You know that. Damn it. Watching a life slip away before my eyes, powerless to stop it, is the most painful part of being a doctor. No doctor can save every life. Even as someone labeled a genius neurosurgeon, I've lost more patients than I can count. But that's exactly why. I can still save him. I will save him. Ignoring everyone else, I resumed CPR on my own. I had no idea how many rounds of chest compressions and AED shocks I'd performed. My arms felt numb, and then, it's beating. With a faint thump, the man's heart started to beat again. Weak, but steady. His breathing followed soon after, and I collapsed onto the aisle in relief. Thank God. He survived. And then, the dead silence in the cabin broke into a loud cheer. He's okay. Oh my God, that's amazing. Well done. Passengers burst into applause. The other doctors patted my shoulder, smiling with relief. Yeah, thank God. A wave of exhaustion hit me like a truck. I couldn't even stand anymore. But for the first time in a long while, I was smiling. I was reminded, once again, why I became a doctor. Shortly after the man's revival, the plane landed safely at the airport. Paramedics were already waiting, and he was rushed to the hospital. The other doctors dispersed, and I finally took a breath in the terminal. That's when a woman approached me. Excuse me. Are you Dr. Oakes? Huh? How do you know my name? Confused, I confirmed my identity. The woman smiled a radiant, almost breathtaking smile. One of the other doctors told me. They said you're a very famous neurosurgeon, known by anyone in the medical field. And you are. Now that I looked more closely, I noticed she was wearing a flight attendant's uniform. Sharp, striking features. Long, slender limbs. She looked to be in her early 20s. I hadn't paid any attention before, but... Wait, were you the flight attendant from earlier? Yes. Thank you so much for earlier. With a grace so mesmerizing it was hard to look away, she bowed politely toward me. Then, lifting her head again, she smiled just as dazzling as before. My name is Lena. Thanks to you, I think I can keep doing this job. Ha? Really, thank you. At that moment, I had no idea that while I was saving a man's life, I had also saved a woman's heart. Up until about an hour ago, I was ready to quit being a flight attendant. Lena spoke while gazing out at the runway below. She had dreamed of this job since she was a child. Just last year, she finally made the dream come true and started working with high hopes. But the reality was harsh. She kept making mistakes and getting scolded by senior flight attendants. Eventually, someone even told her, "You're just not cut out for this." It felt like my whole world was crumbling. But then I thought, if I give up on this dream, what's left for me? I understand that feeling. I had thought about giving up many times myself. Even after all the struggles to become a doctor, I had hit countless walls and thought, I can't do this anymore. But the reason I kept going. I saw you, Dr. Oakes. Even when the other doctors gave up, you didn't. You were the only one who kept trying to save that passenger. And in the end, you did save him. Seeing that gave me so much courage. It made me believe that if I don't give up, maybe I can become a real flight attendant someday. Me too. Ha! I have a younger brother. And that guy, he never gives up. No matter what people say, he never backs down. When I think of him, I know I can't be the one to give up. People judged him for being a former delinquent, for dropping out of high school. He got fired from part-time jobs over and over. Even when Mr. Carden yelled at him, even when he told him, just quit already. Danny never lost his way. He never gave up on his dream of becoming a carpenter. And watching him fight for his future gave me the strength to keep fighting for mine. You have an amazing brother. Lena's words made me nod firmly. And in that moment, I made up my mind. When I got home, I would tell Danny everything. And no matter what happened, I would never give up being a doctor. Thank you, Lena. Ha! I'm really glad we talked. I'm glad I was on your flight. Please, don't give up on your dream either. I turned away, feeling lighter, and started walking toward the exit. At that time. Wait! The sound of heels clicking quickly behind me. Lena stepped in front of me, extending her hand. This. If you don't mind, would you take it? What is this? My contact information, if you don't mind. Ha! My heart pounded so loudly I was afraid she could hear it. This was the first time in my life a woman had ever given me her number. And from someone I had just met today. I want to get to know you better, Dr. Oakes. Her face turned bright red as she struggled to get the words out. But before she could finish, Mickey Oakes? A male voice called my name, so I turned around. And standing behind me were two men in suits. Yes, that's me. And you are? Would you mind coming with us for a moment? We need to ask you some questions. What? What the men took out of their pockets was a police badge. They identified themselves as detectives and told me they were waiting for me to arrive. To hear about a case. Wait. Before I could even process what was happening, Lena jumped between us. As if shielding me, she spread her arms wide, blocking the detective's path. Dr. Oakes isn't the kind of person to commit a crime. You must have the wrong person. Lena. I saw it with my own eyes. He was the only one who never gave up. He fought so hard to save that man. There's no way he's a bad person. I believe in him. Calm down, miss. It's okay. The younger detective gently reassured her, coaxing her to lower her arms. The older detective, his expression stern, looked me straight in the eye. Please listen carefully. And then, he told me something so shocking, I could barely comprehend it. It's not you. The suspect in the case is your brother. What? Danny is currently in our custody. We need you to come with us to the police station. I don't remember how I left the airport. Before I knew it, I was in a car, sitting beside the older detective as he explained everything. Your brother has been stealing cash from the hospital where you work. Have you noticed any unusual behavior from him lately? What? That's impossible. Danny would never steal. Think carefully. Has he suddenly had more money? Bought anything expensive? You live together, don't you? It was as if they were asserting that Danny was the culprit. I was in a state of great shock, yet I found myself inwardly thinking, maybe. I've got a huge surprise planned for your birthday. You're gonna be blown away. Had Danny used stolen money to buy my birthday present? No, that can't be. I wanted to believe in him. But deep inside, a sliver of doubt crept in. And I hated myself for it. We arrived at a police station near the hospital. The moment Danny saw me, he nearly broke down in tears. Mickey, you gotta believe me, I didn't do anything. What is going on here? Why is my brother being treated like this? The second I saw him, a wave of anger surged through me. His t-shirt was dirty and torn at the collar. Fresh cuts marked his cheek, still bleeding slightly. And the room we were in, several large officers stood watch, as if Danny were some dangerous criminal. He resisted arrest, we had no choice but to subdue him. That's a lie. Danny shouted. I wasn't trying to run. I was just looking for. Looking for what? What were you trying to do, Danny? I was looking for the guy who set me up. He told me if I helped out, you wouldn't lose your job. What? Tears streamed down Danny's face as he pleaded, I had been tricked. As Danny was walking near the hospital one day, a man approached him. That man told him something shocking, that I might be getting fired. Someone saw you hanging around this place, and they filed a complaint. They're saying that Dr. Oakes has ties to the mafia. Then, the man made Danny an offer. If Danny helped him out for a while, he would use his connections to make the complaint disappear. All I had to do was grab an envelope from a table in a specific room. He said that was it, and then everything would be fine for you. I thought it was just some letter or something. I never imagined there'd be money inside. Danny's movements going in and out of that room had been recorded on security cameras. To the police, that was enough proof. They were treating him like the prime suspect. Is that really all there is to it? What, Mickey? Do you have any proof that you were tricked? Did you sign any kind of contract with this guy? No. He just told me everything verbally. Wait, you think I did it too? Then what the hell have you been doing this past month? For the past month, I had barely seen him. He never picked me up from work. He'd leave early in the morning, come home late at night. And if, during that time, he had actually been stealing from the hospital, I wouldn't be able to provide him with an alibi. The big surprise you were talking about. Was it bought with stolen money? No. It's not. Then where were you? What have you been doing? I can't say. I won't. Danny looked me dead in the eye, his voice unwavering. And from that moment on, no matter what I asked, he wouldn't say another word. With no other option, the police officially took him into custody. Danny. My footsteps felt like lead as I left the police station. Danny's desperate voice still echoed in my head, Mickey, believe me. And the thought of him sitting alone in his cell, wondering if his own brother had doubted him, was unbearable. I'm sorry for being such a weak brother. At that moment, I heard the crinkle of paper from my pocket. I reached inside and pulled out something I had completely forgotten about. The small note with Lena's contact information. Right. Her words echoed in my mind. I believe in you. A woman I just met trusted me without hesitation. So then. Believe, huh? Yes. No matter what happens, I will believe in Danny. The moment I made that decision, a strange feeling washed over me. The next day, Mitchell called me into a conference room, a smug grin plastered across his face. Well, Mickey. What a mess you're in. I bet you never imagined your own brother would turn out to be a thief and stealing in broad daylight. No less. Mitchell. You set him up, didn't you? Oh. What are you talking about? His words feigned innocence, but his smirk only deepened. Only 3 people knew about the complaint against Danny, me, Mr. Cage, and Mitchell. And only one of those people had been actively trying to get me fired. Last night, I had thought long and hard. And every possibility led back to one name. Well, it doesn't really matter now. Your criminal of a brother just made sure your career is over. Even after your suspension. Do you really think you'll be able to keep working here? Not just here, anywhere. My father and I have connections. It wouldn't take much to make sure every hospital in this region blacklists you. Who knows, maybe a little rumor will start going around. Maybe people will start thinking you were in on it and that you and your brother were working together. Get it now, Mickey? You're never going to be a doctor again. And then, his excitement boiling over, Mitchell finally said it, a line he should never have crossed. So, your brother was a delinquent, wasn't he? Guess once you stray from the right path, you stay trash forever. A real waste of space, society's garbage. Mitchell. His words were so vile, so unforgivable, that rage threatened to consume me. But I didn't let it. Because I believe in my brother. What? I believe that he was nothing more than a victim, tricked by a coward. That he is not trash, not garbage, but a man who has turned his life around and is living with integrity. I believe in him. So I will never believe you. You little. Who the hell are you calling a coward? Ha! You've got guts, I'll give you that. But do you really think a no-name ex-delinquent stands a chance against me, a department head at a major hospital? I don't care what anyone else thinks. I believe in the Danny I know. When I was in elementary school, he turned to my classmates in the neighborhood who ridiculed me as a poor skinny kid and said, "Don't bully my brother," and stood up to them. The Danny who, as a teenager, apologized to every person he had wronged. The Danny who, as an apprentice, never missed a single day of work. I remembered it all, every struggle, every step forward. No matter what anyone said, no one could erase those memories from me. That was why I believed in him. Mitchell. I can take any insult you throw at me. But he was in shock. I shot him a sharp glare. He flinched visibly. What I won't forgive is you dragging my brother into this. And I will make you admit his innocence. You? Ha! And how do you plan to do that? You don't have a shred of proof. You really think so? Of course. And I'm done playing around. Your giant brother is an eyesore, too. I'll make sure both of you disappear from society forever. Mitchell jabbed a finger at me, his voice dripping with venom. And in response, I simply held up a small memory stick. What's that? Unfortunately, this won't directly prove Danny's innocence, but it will be enough to drag you down from your little throne. And shake that social credibility of yours. What are you talking about? With a smile on his mouth, Mitchell's face turns pale in a flash. Apparently, he had a hunch about the contents of the memory stick. But I didn't care and said the words that Mitchell had expected. This is evidence. A record of all the corruption and misconduct you've covered up over the years. Mickey. Mitchell lunged at me, trying to snatch the drive from my hand. However, his aim was off, and he plunged into the table with such force that his upper body struck the table with such force that he fell to the floor and fainted in agony. Damn it. That was your fault. You dodged. I can hand it over if you want. But do you really think this is the only copy? What? For safety, I made backups. Where did I put them again? Oh well. Probably somewhere in the surgery department. The surgery department. Without thinking, Mitchell spun around and bolted for the exit. He yanked the door open and then froze. What the hell are you all doing here? His panic was justified. In front of the conference room where we were, there were many doctors and nurses who had heard the commotion. And they were all looking at Mitchell, who had jumped out of the room with a quizzical look. "Something wrong, Mitchell?" "Nothing." "All of you, move. Get out of my way." "All of you? Move? Out of my way?" Ah. It had taken years for Mitchell to craft his image, the calm, competent, respectable chief surgeon. He had hidden his true nature from everyone but me. But now, it was too late. The murmurs spread rapidly through the growing crowd outside the conference room. Mitchell's downfall was no longer something he could control. "It's over." Finally realizing this, Mitchell gave up. His legs gave out, and he collapsed onto the floor, shoulders slumped in utter defeat. That same day, I went straight to Mr. Cage and laid out everything: Mitchell's embezzlement, the illegal reselling of hospital supplies, the under-the-table kickbacks from medical equipment manufacturers. The list went on and on. Even Mr. Cage, who had always protected his son, looked devastated. "Why would you do this, Mitchell?" I started gathering evidence the moment I first noticed the fraud. I knew that simply exposing it wouldn't be enough. You would have defended Mitchell, just like you believed that fake complaint about my brother. Mitchell confessed to everything, including setting Danny up. His goal was to eliminate me from the hospital entirely. By forcing me out, he would secure his position as the next hospital director. First, he used his father to put me on suspension. When that wasn't enough, he decided to destroy my reputation completely by labeling me the relative of a criminal. I was so focused on protecting the hospital, I never stopped to question anything. "I'm sorry, Mickey. Truly." Mr. Cage, clearly exhausted after a short period of time, exhaled deeply to me, looked me in the eye, and offered a sincere apology. Mitchell was to be fired immediately and disowned. And just as promised, a few days later, Mitchell was thrown out of both the hospital and his family with nothing. "I'm also canceling your suspension. If you're willing, I'd like you to return as the head of surgery. We need you here. I also heard about what you did on the flight, how you never gave up, even when everyone else had. You belong in this hospital." He meant it. But instead of answering, I placed my resignation letter on his desk. What? Why? I knew about Mitchell's fraud but didn't expose him sooner. I take responsibility for that. That was my official reason. The real reason was that I couldn't forgive him. Even after learning that Danny wasn't in the mafia, he never apologized to him. Not once. Oh no. Mr. Cage slumped in his chair, defeated. It was almost uncanny how similar his posture was to his son's. And with that, I turned my back on him, on the hospital, and walked away. My pace quickened because I had somewhere to be. Danny is waiting for me. I need to go pick him up. Danny was later proven innocent and released without incident. When Danny was let out of the detention center, he was crying at that point. His face scrunched up. I thought he must have had a very hard time in the detention center. Thank you, Mickey, for believing in me. Come on. You don't have to say it like that. I had to say it. I'd been waiting until I got out so I could tell you thank you. Ha ha. You really are an idiot, Danny. I'm your brother. Of course I believe in you. And as I said those words, Danny bawled, thanking me over and over. And then, not long after, my birthday arrived. From the moment I woke up, Danny dragged me out of the house, taking me somewhere. Where are we going? This is just a residential area. Almost there. You need to get outside more anyway. But no matter how far we walked, he kept saying, just a little more. Through the suburbs, up a long hill. By the time we reached the top, I was exhausted. I was about to start complaining, when Danny suddenly stopped. We're here. This is what I wanted to show you. What? I looked in the direction he pointed, and my eyes widened. Standing there was a brand new one-story house. It wasn't big, but it had a modern, stylish design, with a neatly trimmed lawn surrounding it. It was exactly like I once told you I wanted to live in a house like this, and it's exactly the way I imagined. Phew! So I got it right, huh? I was so nervous while building it, thinking, what if he doesn't like it? Building. Wait. You built this? I was speechless, and Danny just grinned. Surprise! Mission complete. He threw both fists into the air. It took me about 2 years. Mr. Carden and the guys at work helped out from time to time. But man, the last month was brutal, non-stop rain. Then I got arrested, and everything almost fell apart. But I made it just in time. Happy birthday, Mickey. The moment he said it, tears welled up in my eyes. You idiot. If I had known. If I told you, it wouldn't have been a surprise. You're so dumb, Mickey. Ha! Is this payback for my surprise the other day? I tried to keep my emotions in check, but no matter how hard I fought it, the tears welled up. The little brother who used to follow me around everywhere had grown into a skilled carpenter. And not just that, he had built a home just for me. This house is yours. I finally got to repay you a little. Idiot. A little? This is too much. I spent all my savings on it. But honestly, I've never felt like I spent my money better. You should have used it for yourself. You really are an idiot. I wanted to say it while laughing, but I couldn't. Because the tears wouldn't stop. Thank you, Danny. This is the best gift ever. No, thank you for everything. Woohoo! Ha ha. Watching him cry harder than me, I laughed through my own tears. Then, I turned to face the house again. No matter how I looked at it, it was the best house in the world. Because it was built with nothing but love. Not long after, I officially left my apartment to Danny and moved into my new home. I found a new job at a nearby hospital and returned to working as a neurosurgeon. Life started to settle into a steady rhythm, until one evening after finishing my shift, I found someone unexpected waiting outside the hospital. It's been a while, Dr. Oakes. Do you remember me? Lena. Yes. It was Lena, who nodded very happily and had left me at the airport that day. Of course, she was not wearing a flight attendant uniform, but a white one-piece dress with a neat and clean look. Her makeup, more modest than that day, instead enhanced her original beauty. Such a dazzlingly beautiful woman suddenly appeared in front of me and ran up to me. I've always wanted to meet you, she said, taking my hand and smiling at me. My heart rate increased so rapidly that I thought I was having a heart attack. You never contacted me. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I got caught up with everything. That's why I realized I shouldn't just wait. I heard from some colleagues that you started working here. I had to come see you. Why, though? Why? Her eyes swam as if she was embarrassed, and her cheeks were slightly tinted. She put more pressure on her hand that was holding mine. And Lena suddenly looked up and stared straight into my eyes. Because it was love at first sight. Because I fell in love with you when I saw you saving a life. What? Please marry me. What? This was the first proposal I ever received in my life. To be honest, I have no memory of how I responded at that moment. I was in such a panic that it completely slipped my mind, even now, 2 years later. It remains a secret I keep to myself. But there is one thing I remember clearly. This house is meant for a family, you know. So do your best, Mickey. For some reason, Danny's words suddenly resurfaced in my mind at that moment. Looking back now, maybe it was a prophecy. Because before long, I would be starting a new chapter in my life. In the best house in the world and with the woman I love most, who is now my family. Believing in someone takes a lot of courage. It means battling the fear of betrayal and the doubts that creep into your mind. But the people who choose to believe despite that, they are the strongest of all. I was lucky enough to meet such a person, and thanks to her, I found the strength to believe in my brother until the very end. Believing in someone can also mean saving their heart. That's why, as a doctor, I will always believe in my patient's recovery. At the same time, I will dedicate myself to earning their trust. With that promise in my heart, I will continue to save as many lives as I can.